Welcome to Fat Man Beyond. I'm Kevin Smith.
I'm Marc Barnard.
Hey!
Oh!
Holy fuck, we're all here. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are at the Scum and Villainy Cantina in Hollywood, California, on Hollywood Boulevard. Please put your hands together so the folks at home know you're real. Quick story. We put the show up on YouTube later on and stuff after we're done with them. And somebody had tweeted at me like, hey man, fucking you didn't do the, tell the people at home, just clap your hands so they know you're real on the episode. And I was like, fuck it, of course I did. I do it like every fucking time. And then I was like, wait, you're stoned. Maybe you didn't fucking do it. So I went back to watch it and it wasn't there. All of a sudden the show just starts with us fucking talking and shit. So I reached out to the fine proprietor of this establishment, who was also in charge of the video, that's JC. And I was like, what, fucking, do you always cut it and shit? And apparently there were some audio issues, so they lost that part. But just to assure folks at home, I wasn't fucking lying. We're real. Like, doubt me, piece of fucking, good God. This is a little cute thing to do at the beginning of the show, but then somebody noticed when it wasn't there. They're like, hey man, are they real or is it fucking...
It's how I know I'm not dreaming.
All right, so since we last convened to do the show...
Previously on Fat Man Beyond.
Thank you, yeah, well done. So many things have happened, but not like enough in my real life. I was coming here going, what the fuck has happened? And all that's happened is shit I can't fucking fully reveal, but I can say this. We've continued to work on that thing we were talking about last week, which now... The internet has started playing guessing games on, which is very fun.
And nobody's gotten it yet.
You know what I'm saying? I noticed that too. And it kind of irritated me where I'm like, you don't think we're fucking good enough for that? Like, you don't throw that into the pile and shit?
Yeah, it's like, are they doing Captain Planet? Like, well, no, we're not doing Captain Planet.
It just got crossed off the list. I've been knee deep in that. And this weekend... Like I don't know. I smoked this incredible fucking weed that's nowhere else in the fucking world, and sat down to write.
That's how long it took you.
And that's how good it was. When I sat down to write, I'd already written, Marc. It was done, and it was fucking amazing.
That is some Stephen King level shit.
It is, man. Some elves wrote my shit.
Yeah.
So it's incredible weed that also like it keeps you sharply focused. So I was like boom, 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 and so I wound up working on this thing and writing an outline, a pretty like comprehensive outline for the first half of the thing that we're working on, and then next I'll write the same kind of thing for the back half. But we started meeting about that on Monday, and we're meeting about that one more time before we start portioning it off and everybody starts riding. This thing's moving fucking fast. But so
whatever it is.
Yeah. Mystery. So in doing that, I was so fucking like, I'd never done it before. I don't write with others, and not where I'm like, fuck others, but I've just, independent film, indie. I'm usually by myself, lone wolf, Batman. So I'd never really had a writer's room experience. This has been kind of my first. And nominally I'm in charge, so that just means you have to do shit like that, administrative stuff. Yeah. Like, hey, we need to see, like, they told me, give me 2 pages on the thing we're doing. Like, one for one and one for the other, one for one half, one for the other. And I couldn't do it that way, so I was like, let me just write everything that we've all discussed into like one piece so that we're all kind of on the same page. And I handed it in, and I was so fucking scared, like, because again, my career is not based on like somebody saying yes or no. It's just like, oh, we're gonna do this thing and figure it out later on and shit. But when you work for somebody else, there's someone to disappoint other than the critics and the audience, and so it was
someone who has their hands on a checkbook.
Yeah, and they might be like, you're fucking fired. So I was like, oh shit, I gotta hand this in. And I'm nervous about handing it in and stuff because it was way longer than was asked for. And the fucking, I was like, did it work? The good news is it went over fucking huge. But it went to the point where people were like, everybody should do this on every fucking TV show. And I was like, oh, I did too much. Fuck. Yeah. Like, because now there's a bar, you know? Now you can let them down.
Yeah, there's like the Kev Smith clause, and like motherfuckers on Orange is the New Black are like, we got to do what? Because of who?
Yeah.
Can we get that weed? Because we can't just do that.
That weed helped, man. So I'll do it for the other half of the thing we're working on and stuff, but it was incredibly helpful. But that's all I've been doing since we last spoke. That and finishing up Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. We've been doing all the last bit of ADR. Thank you. ADR. Thank you. You haven't seen it yet. It could be shit. Months from now, you might be like, why did we support it? I love it. As I said before, like it's in this weird, you always like to be I'm a pro. I always like to fucking say that to the kid and shit. Like, not in a condescending way, but like at the end of the movie, Harley was bawling and shit. Like, oh my God. Because for her, it's like camp and shit. And it should be. That's the way making a movie should be like, oh my God, we just got away with something. This was fun. And when it's over, it should feel like, oh my God, you're my best friend in the world. I can't fucking live with that. And then you go back to your normal life. That's what like going to camp was. I never went, but that's what it seemed like on Meatballs. So for, it should always be like that. So at the end of the movie, she was real fucking emotional and shit. And I'm like, oh, come on, kid. She's like, why aren't you crying? I was like, oh, because, believe me, I love this more than anybody else. Just think of all the trouble I went to bring all these people together and tell this goofy story. I said, but a pro knows how to walk away and shit like that. And she's just like, fuck you, Silent Bill. I like to maintain an air of reserve after a quarter century in the business of like, I started as, this is who I am, and that's how I introduced myself to people through those movies. Now I could do it through a podcast. Now I could better represent myself just standing here talking than spending a bunch of money to tell you a story and have people be like, I think I know his character. Like, it's cheaper for me to be like, I'll tell you about my fucking character, So I've been able to kind of grow it over time, and I thought that I didn't fetishize movie making as much as I did when I was a kid, because then it was my only means of communication. It was like, this is how they're going to know what I'm thinking and feeling. Now I could do that in a number of ways, so I felt like a professional reserve from it. Or maybe I felt that because the last movie was Yoga Hosers and people were like, you suck. And I'm like, well, I'm professionally reserved from that, so thank you. I can handle that sort of thing. But I'm at the stage now with Jay and Silent Bob Reboot where like I absolutely fucking love it, and like it's going to hurt when other people don't agree with me. And I'm a pro, like, I understand that not everyone will agree with me, but I love it so much that like I have to get past this phase of like, why wouldn't somebody like that movie? You know what I'm saying? Like a real proud parent, like, oh my God, fucking like Kevin's the best. The way my mother talks about me is the way I talk about this movie, man. Just all pride and shit. I absolutely love it. So we've been coming to a close with it. I've seen like almost the last visual effects. Armin and the folks at Encore that do all the visual effects for most of the CW shows you watch. I think they do Titans. I don't know if they might actually do Krypton as well. I'm not sure. I don't want to give them credit that it didn't. But they do everything else. They do Flash, Supergirl. That's how I grew to work with them. We had them do our special effects. So I don't want to spoil, but like last time we made Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, we built a Bluntcave on the stage at CBS Radford, and you had to build it. It was paper mache and shit, but like you walked in and you're like, who's fucking okayed this? Like, what a fucking dumb idea. So we didn't have to do that in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot because you wouldn't build something like that anymore. You'd build the pieces that you interact with, and then the rest goes to CG, right? So our Bluntcave this time around was a structure that the production designer built that we could stand on and interact with. But we were just surrounded by fucking green. It was like fucking Endgame, except with none of the money, none of the talent. But like the same, when you watch their behind the scenes, I was like, oh shit, we did that for a day on our fucking movie. They did it for 3 years or whatever the fuck to make what they made. So that means somebody got to fill in the background. And so I'd worked with Armin on my episodes. Armin kind of responsible for getting me into those shows because like he created King Shark. He was the guy, his team built King Shark. And that was the thing that made Jason Mewes call me and be like, holy fuck, you gotta watch Flash, King Shark's on it. And I was like, fucking King Shark? Who would bother? And I saw it on, I couldn't even, it was too late to watch it. I saw it on Twitter and I was like, holy fuck. Like, they cracked the code of King Shark. Like, you know, it looked so much better than it had any right to be because it's such a dopey concept and shit. But that got me into the show. I was like, I'm gonna watch this show. If they could make King Shark work, fucking this show might be good. So I fell in love with that, and fell in love with Supergirl and stuff. Wound up directing those shows. So Armin was kind of my way in and stuff. So we've worked together on my episodes, but he always said, he's going, if you're ever doing Jay and Silent Bob, that sequel you keep promising, he's going, fucking let us get first crack at doing the visual effects. So they did, and they've been doing a tremendous job. And they built me the most beautiful, spacious, expensive-looking Bluntcave. Something that this movie does not fucking deserve. Like for a good few minutes in the movie, it looks so expensive. You know, and then it goes back to a Kevin Smith movie. But it was such a fucking thrill. So I've seen now, they've delivered almost every shot. There's like 2 shots that they're tweaking and finishing. But all the visual effects shots are done in the movie. And this is not bragging, and this is not saying this makes me a better filmmaker by any stretch of the imagination. For the layman, this is just to show you how far filmmaking and special effects have come from our childhood. We have 3 times as many visual effects / CG, visual effects in general, in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot than they did in Star Wars. Now, that doesn't mean our movie's like, we're gonna take you to fucking space. It just means like everything that counts as an effect shot. So anytime we had people in a car, we didn't do a process trailer. We didn't put people in a car and put the car on top of a truck and then drive the truck around. We just threw them on a green screen stage, or threw them on a stage, put green screen behind them, and did the backgrounds later. Every one of those shots counts as an effect shot. So, I mean, even though it didn't cost as much as blowing up the Death Star, they're both visual effects shots at the end of the day. So when you just count them like that, we have 3 times as many as they had in Star Wars, and we're not even a visual effects heavy movie. Like, other than the Bluntcave sequence, the shots that kind of make up those shots are replacement, taking green screen out of fucking driving shots. Dopey shit like we shot at a courthouse, and it said, Louisiana Parish on the front, because we shot in Louisiana, or Jefferson Parish. So, we couldn't have it say that for the movie. So they just erased it from the building. You wouldn't know it was ever there and shit. That's an effect shot. That's, fucking going into the trench of the Death Star. Probably cost about as much, maybe more at this point, I don't know. But that's purely counted as a visual effect shot. But that's, again, not bragging. I don't want the internet to be like, Smith says he's better than Lucas. Fuck no. Although draw your own conclusions. But it's just like, that's how far, like, that's not even saying it. That's just to say that a movie like ours, which is not special effects heavy or predicated at all, still has a bunch of fucking effect shots. You just can't escape it at this point. Because sometimes, here's another example. We were using an iPhone. Pops up a lot in the fucking movie. At one point, in order to use an Apple iPhone, which is their, property, what is it called? Intellectual property, whatever, for their design, their copyright, their trademark. They're cool, they'll let you use it, but it has to match their standard of what the iPhone is. What's on screen has to look like what's on screen if somebody had a real iPhone. They don't want you misrepresenting, and they are like fastidious about it. So at one point we had a percentage, like first we didn't even know we had to do it. We had a green screen phone and we put the art in later on, and then we sent it through approval, and Apple said, oh, it's missing the stuff on top, which is the battery, the time, and the little bar for Wi-Fi or whatever the fuck. All the standard shit you see on top of like an iPhone screen. So we were like, oh, bummer. Next time, they're like, no, you got to put that on, otherwise you don't get approval. So that became a visual effects shot. Like the visual effects people had to put in those little numbers that would have been there if we hadn't green screened the phone, because we green screened it because we're like, oh, we'll do it, the art later on and shit. We thought it would save time and money. Instead, it added an effect shot to the movie. And in order to get that cleared, you've got to send it to them. They've got to approve it. They kicked back our first pass because the wonderful folks at Encore, and I'd probably get credit, but I should give them credit. You know, they were like, we had to put a battery percentage, so of course we chose 69. And and I was like, oh, that fucking rocks! And they're like, except Apple kicked it back. And I said, why? And they're like, because they don't put the numbers up anymore. Now it's just like a little battery represents life. So they're like, that doesn't exist, and if you're using the iPhone, we want you to represent the iPhone. So totally understandable, makes sense, but we did have to put that shit on, and that's considered an effect shot, technically. So even though we're not a movie with effect shots, you wind up having a bunch of backdoor effect shots, which sounds way sexier than I meant it. In any event, so that's what I've been doing all week, working on the thing that me and Marc are working on, as well as closing up Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. But last we left, we talked about last week, July 2nd, which is coming up, a week from now?
Yes.
Is that rightish? Yes.
Yes.
Spider-Man Far From Home is going to open. And we talked about, hey man, like we should do a screening and then come do the show because we have a show that day. We should all meet somebody and we should come up with. Thankfully, somebody far smarter than me allowed us to do that.
Brett Deacon.
Yeah, Brett Deacon, our wonderful friend Brett Deacon, who's always given us the 40X tickets, you know, that we give out during the Q&A at the end. He hooked us up, man. JC's got details. JC hit the hot spot. JC, ladies and gentlemen, Riefenberg is the man who owns Scum and Villainy. Give it up for him.
JC in the house.
Tell us the dirty deets. This was a whimsy that I had at the end of the thing, and I was like, I'll pay for it, and I'm not even paying for it. Somebody else is paying for it. This is how the fucking rich get richer. Anyway, tell them the details.
Well, it's also crazy because we put the show up on YouTube before I had a chance to reach out to anybody, and Brett texted me, and he's like, hey, so where are you doing the screening? It's like, well, funny you should ask. I'm in the middle of doing the 283rd effect shot on Jay and Silent Bob.
Is that how many it was?
I think
Did you tell me the Star Wars figure or somebody else?
Yeah.
Was I wrong? Did I say it
No,
wrong?
no, it's right. It's about, I think there was 70 some odd in Star Wars, and I just found one at the end that we have to do. So I think that's 283.
What is
I can't tell. I mean,
spoilers. JC is, what is your official title on the movie?
Assistant editor.
Yes, JC is assistant editor on the movie. And that job, for folks that are like, what does that mean, is a very all-encompassing job. I, as the editor, literally the only thing I do is cut picture and throw sound under and come up with all that shit and build layers and whatnot. If it requires anything more complex than that, I turn over to JC and whatnot. So if it requires a second visual layer other than like black bars, say a special effect comes in or something like that. If I wanted to make a special effect, if I wanted to take a larger image, just shrink it to a smaller image. As I've been working on the Avid editing system since '96, I still can't do those simple fucking tasks because there's always somebody who's like, oh, I could do that. And JC's been doing it for the last few flicks. So he's also in charge of getting the effect shots from Encore and putting them into the movie and whatnot. So he's got tons of fucking familiarity with that. That's what he does in one of his many jobs and the many hats that he fucking spins. But we got way off kilter.
So I'm
Spider-Man.
working on that. And then Brett texts, because the show went up, I think, Thursday morning. And within, it was at the end of the show. So within 2 hours of the show being up, he's like, hey, we might be able to do something. And then we worked with the ScreenX people over the weekend. On a Monday, they were like, cool, we got it. So we're doing it on Tuesday afternoon.
So that's 1 week from today.
1 week from today, you'll have to play hooky from work or take an early 4th of July break.
Doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
Doctor's appointment. Those are magic, guys.
But
Yes.
if
My spleen.
If you buy tickets to the show, I think there's 20 regular tickets as of when the show started tonight. And I think I'm going to try to add like 10 or 15 standing room. You get a free ticket to see Spider-Man Far From Home on opening day at ScreenX, which is the screen that has the screens on the side also.
So we're not only going to see Spider-Man Far From Home, we're going to see the, like, here's what you missed if you didn't have more money. And fucking, On the sides, they add more picture to the
So
sides.
yeah, I think it's like at Black Panther when you were like flying into
They
Wakanda.
added more Wakanda.
They added the like extra CG Wakanda on the sides of the screen, so you actually feel like you're completely.
And it's not
in the
just like they're like
experience.
tiling it. It's like brand new digital information that's coming straight from Marvel, and in this case, Marvel and Sony. So it's not like, oh no, they just copy pasted. It's all new shit that they're doing just for this.
So it should be pretty cool. Buy a ticket. I will email you when and where and address and details. And if you want, I'm going to be here and I'm taking the metro there. So if you're like, I want to go, but I don't want to pay for parking twice, park here, meet me in the late morning here, and we'll all take the metro as a FatMan Beyond group down to the theater, watch the movie, and then we'll...
You're turning this shit into a class trip,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
That's adorable.
Everybody get a buddy.
I think we'll open the bar, like whenever the movie ends, because it'll end significantly before the show. I think I'll just come back and open the bar, and we can wait to talk about it.
Everybody will be good and drunk by the time we
Yeah, everybody will be.
Fantastic.
Well, number one, we thank our friends at 40X and ScreenX for making this opportunity available to us. That's fucking super sweet.
Also, ScreenX is buying popcorn and soda.
Are you shitting me?
So
Treats too?
If Spider-Man isn't enough, you're like, yeah, Spider-Man, popcorn and soda for free.
I know. That's a fucking good deal.
And the movie, and then you get to come to the show.
We love the folks at 40X and ScreenX, man. So thank you to them for hooking us up. It's how nice. It's just something I whimsied about, and somebody made it happen for me, and that's why I'm spoiled. So that's cool. We'll have that to look forward to. Next episode, we're going to be talking the fuck about Spider-Man, just having seen Spider-Man, which by early reports is fantastic. And a little piece of news, they said that this is the official end of Marvel Universe's Phase 4. So Endgame, they didn't consider the end of Phase 4. Kevin Feige says this is absolutely the last chapter of Phase 4. That's why it's so tied in with Endgame and the events of Endgame, which I would have said, like, you know, that's where blank died. But after Tom Holland got in trouble this week for spoiling that, like, he was somewhere, he was overseas, and he talked about the end of Endgame, and he says, spoilers, man, if you don't know the end of Endgame, and if you don't, how the fuck did you get to this place tonight? You know, he was like, you know, Tony Stark died, and a bunch of people on social media in England were like, fuck you, Spider-Man, like, because they hadn't seen it yet. And that, you know, is so, maybe that's very first world notion, but I'm like, how the fuck have you not seen? How did this movie become the #1 movie of all time? Almost, or we're very close to it, about to happen. Unless everybody fucking saw it. It passed unnumbered today, but not the number. Yeah, we'll talk about it. That's one of our stories. Don't take away our fucking news stories.
Spoilers.
Oh my God, man! Fucking, he worked so hard on the news.
Man, so much copy pasting.
If the movie's going to make $2 billion and there's like 7 billion people on Earth, it's like 1 out of every 3 people on Earth, like including babies, has to have seen Endgame. How? Like, if you're old enough to watch Tom Holland on the news, you're old enough that you should have seen Endgame.
I feel like this is nerd shaming others. Like, how could you not see Endgame? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I got a family. But Tom Holland, he was like, he spoiled it, and people got really shitty about it, and he had to, I don't know if he apologized, but he was like, whoa, I thought everybody knew. That would have been the assumption that I had as well.
Yeah.
Why
Like
did I
Tony
do that?
Stark dies. You know this, yes?
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
that, you know.
Now you've just earned it.
I feel like, how long after Empire happened did the culture at large know that, you know, spoilers just in case? I am your father. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. I remember there was like shitty people online who hated good things and purity and awesomeness, who would literally, like, people waiting online coming out of the theater.
oh, online. I thought you
Yes.
meant online. And I was like, Mark, do you think
Yeah.
The Empire Strikes Back came out 20 years ago? You mean waiting online in front of the theater?
Because we did that once.
How funny. There was a waiting online before there was a waiting online.
What?
That's my social media observation humor, ladies and gentlemen. So wait, people coming out would say
Yeah,
shit?
people coming out just to fuck with people would say, hey, by the way, it's Dad.
Oh my God, people were evil even in the 70s? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe even
Well, that was
worse.
the 80s, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
1980. Okay, fuck, we're way off track. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man,
So-
next week.
Fatman Beyond next week. Spider-Man Far From Home. Like, it's the best deal on a Tuesday that.
It is, man. Give it up for JC. He made it happen as well. You must have done some things this week.
I did. I went on a trip.
Where?
I went to New York
Ooh, why?
to go see a show because it turns out you can do that if you want. They'll sell you a plane ticket and you can just fly and then land and be like, I want to go see a show. And they'll be like, great, give us money. And then you can do that too.
Marc just discovered America, ladies and gentlemen.
I discovered America and capitalism. It's
my
fabulous.
Which show?
I went to go see Beetlejuice.
Ah,
Beetlejuice. It's so fucking fun.
is it?
It really is. It's so good. I am
Who
not
wrote the
saying
book
that.
lyrics? Anybody that we know? Or
I am
new
not
people?
saying that it's good and fun because I know the guy who wrote the book.
Oh, you do?
I do. The guy who wrote the book, a fellow named Scott Brown, was the first person I ever hired at Entertainment Weekly. He was my assistant when I was the video editor of Entertainment Weekly. And he was an awful assistant. But, like the worst. Like he couldn't do expenses, he couldn't keep a calendar, he couldn't take notes for phone calls, nothing. But he could write. Like, and we all knew it, like, all right, we're not going to fire him because he's really fucking good at writing. So let him do his year and then we'll promote him and then everybody will be happy. And we promoted him. He became a senior writer and did amazing stuff at EW and then left to go to Vulture, where he was a theater critic for New York Magazine. And then
He was a theater critic?
he's a theater critic for New York
So
Magazine.
for all those people that were like, hey man, stop criticizing. If you think it's so easy, why don't you do it
Make
yourself?
your own.
He's like, I'll write Beetlejuice. Fuck
Just you wait. And then he shifted into TV. He went to work on Manhattan. He was a writer on Manhattan. And then he
That's
was
that TV show about the bomb.
about the nuclear families in Los Alamos. And then the guys who were doing Manhattan brought him on to help develop a Stephen King show called Castle Rock. Yes.
That's how you cross over.
And so Scott told them, like, listen, you need to sit down. You need to meet my friend Marc because A, he can write, B, he's a nerd. You guys don't know horror. He knows horror. You absolutely need to have him in your room. So he was my like vanguard into Castle Rock. If it wasn't for his vouchsafe for my bona fides, I would not have gotten that job.
Those are a lot of hipster words that came from an old-timey world. But that is but sweet. But it seems like you paved the way for him, and so he in turn paved the way for you.
He has been one of my first readers. You know, like when I write something and I'm looking for feedback, I'll send it to Scott, and Scott will give me notes, and vice versa. But yeah, I've known him for 25 years. And then when he told me, yeah, man, like 9 years ago, I got hired to write fucking Beetlejuice the musical. Can you believe it? And I said, no. Why are they making a Beetlejuice musical? He says, IP, man. Like, all right, I get it. And 9 years later, like he's nominated for a Tony for writing Beetlejuice the musical.
Wow.
And it's so wonderful to get to watch somebody do the thing they were born to do, you know, and for that person to be a friend. Like and the last time I'd felt that before going to see Beetlejuice was when I went to go see you shoot Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Like just to get to watch somebody, because I'd never seen you direct before.
Oh,
You know, like.
that's right.
I mean, I was in the cop-out set, and there wasn't a ton of directing at that time. But to get to watch somebody like do the thing they were born to do and do it well is super special and kind of magical.
Thank you.
And so to get to see my friend's show, like, yeah, I will absolutely fly cross country for 36 hours to come and see fucking Beetlejuice.
Fuck yeah.
So I did, and it was lovely and wonderful.
What does the production look like? Tim Burton-y?
It's very Tim Burton-y. I mean, they do fucking amazing shit with stagecraft now that I could not have imagined
They
before.
do the sand.
They
worm,
don't
the
do
sand
they do
snake?
the giant sandworms. They have the inside of Lydia's house.
Wow.
But it changes. Like literally, it's all like digital projection shit. So it's the nice house when the Maitlands maybe
yeah.
yes are moving in, and then when fucking like Otho redesigns it, and then when Beetlejuice takes over, like it's the same stage but looks like completely different houses, and giant snakes, and it's fucking awesome. And lots of fourth wall breaking, lots of. And I remember that I don't remember that much about the movie. Like, it's been a while since I've seen it. So I'm like, oh, no, there's 2 Harry Belafonte songs. So I know that happens. And I know they say Beetlejuice 3 times, so I know that happens. But kind of everything else was a little bit invented for me. And in talking to Scott about it, he said, yeah, the problem was not only we have the movie to deal with, we had a cartoon that ran for like 5 or 6 years.
That cartoon was really good.
And for lots of people, that was
That
their
is
entry point.
Beetlejuice,
That's
yeah.
what it means.
It's
And
true. Wow, that's
it's
funny.
pretty cool.
I never thought of that as being somebody's entry point, but yeah, and it ran for a while. And it was a legit cartoon. They did a great job with it.
Totally. And so him having to wrestle multiple entry points into the same thing and make it work and make it sing, and then, yeah, it's awesome. I also discovered how old I am.
Why?
In New York, because I was on my way to the airport flying home. I was having dinner with my brother and his wife, and I said, listen, I gotta go because I don't want to be late to my plane. I don't want to have to like OJ my way through the airport. And his wife looked at me like, what? I'm like, no. Oh, you don't, because OJ, before he was a murderer, did like commercials for Hertz where he like ran through airports and like jumped over shit because he was the juice and the juice is loose and whatever. Like,
So she thought your version of OJ was...
like I'm going to stab a bunch of white ladies on my way to the gate and like just shed gloves everywhere I go. I was like, oh, there's a reference you totally don't get because you're not like of age. And then I also, like, I was so pleased. Like, I was staying in a hotel in Times Square, and my folks are out on Long Island. So I was going to, like, walk down through Times Square, get on the train, Long Island Railroad out to Long Island. So I got my, like, backpack on, and I'm trudging through Times Square, which is a nightmare because it's just tourist mecca. Like, it's nothing but people stopping and gawking and dudes handing out flyers for Scientology and bus tours and whatever. And, like, I'm a New Yorker. Like, I was born in New York, lived there for, like, 30 years. And I was just fucking I still have my New York face on, which I thought I lost. Like, because moving to LA softens you. Like, you lose almost everything. Like, you can't handle snow anymore. You can barely, like, rain is anathema. Like, you just can't do shit. But I was fucking trudging, right? I'm like stepping. And like, yes. And nobody tried to give me a flyer. Like, they looked at me like, that motherfucker's from here. He don't want a shitty bus tour. He doesn't want to buy my rap CD. He doesn't want a comedy club experience at 2:00 in the afternoon.
They get me on every one of those, man. I'm just too, like, I can't, like, you know, you just want to encourage everybody and shit. Like, I can't, I move fast, though, I will say that. Like, my wife and kid are always kind of flabbergasted. I travel alone mostly, or travel with Jason to places a lot. So when I do travel with my wife and kid, I just, in order to get through a space, public space, any public space, generally I'm not there to saunter. I saunter in the car. But when I'm getting where I'm getting, I know legit, even when I was very heavy, I move like a rocket. I move very fucking fast.
I've been through airports with you, and like, it's been a little bit of me by customs going, go on without me. I can't make it. You got this. Stay golden, pony boy. And he's just fucking off.
Otherwise I'll miss the plane. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if you catch me, I stop, I talk, I'll take a picture and shit. I'm like the leprechaun. Catch me and I'll give you some fucking gold, but generally speaking, I move pretty fucking fast and shit. So when they stop me, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, fucking, and I give people the FaceTime. And so even if they're trying to sell me on something, I cannot tell you how many rap CDs I've bought. And I don't even have a way to play them anymore, man. Like, so, but I feel like if somebody's doing it, I'm like, go get them, man, go get them.
I had my New York mean mug on, and I was happy as a clam. Just I hadn't lost it. I still got it.
I don't know if mine's like, yeah, I don't know if I have it anymore. I don't know if I wouldn't attribute that to California as much as, like, I'm just a stoner. So, like, when people, like, this is my standard response. I remember when I was a kid, or how people would say, you know, fucking, all right, ask me, how you doing?
Hey, man, how you doing?
All right, man. That was old Kev, pre-stoner Kev. Ask me how I'm doing.
Should I put some mustard on this one?
No, do it any way you want.
Hello, how you doing?
So good.
So good, really.
That's always my response. And it catches motherfuckers off guard, man. Like, you know, I do it so much around my wife, she's like, shut up. But when I do it, like, in public, and people are just hitting you with the standard, checking you out, like, how you doing? And I'm like, so good. They fucking look up like, really? Like, what? What do you know that I don't? And
How? But yeah, that was the big thing that I did in the last week. I mean, and I watched some Jessica Jones.
you watched how many episodes?
I'm 3 episodes in.
Fucking
I watched
A.
them on the plane.
And this is the final season.
The
She's
final
being
season.
stalked.
This is the end of what happened.
I was about to sneeze. Go ahead.
Okay, this is the end of the Marvel Netflix.
Doesn't it work for you if you look up at a light? Does it make you sneeze?
No.
Are you serious? That's never been a thing for you?
No.
In order to make myself sneeze, I just have to look up at a bright light, and it makes me sneeze.
I mean, in order to make myself blind, I look up at a bright light. Stare at the sun, Donald Trump. Do it.
I encouraged my kid to do that when she was young. Maybe I was wrong. But that's how I sneeze, just looking up. The dogs do it too.
Really?
When I throw the dogs on their back and pet them, they're forced to look up, and then the one dog's like every time and shit. Which is good because she got stuffed sinuses, and you can't like teach a dog to blow its nose. I've tried. So, and if you go over with a tissue and you try to do it for them and shit, they're like, "What did I do?" So the sneeze is the best way to clear the fire. And this
so
one dog we got's got fucking bad sinuses. So I lay her on her back, and it's Marty, the rescue dog, Jen's dog. And I stretch her legs out like she's, you know, I'm sure other people do it. Like, you know how the dog's legs go like this and shit?
Sure.
And you could stretch them out.
If you say so.
So I stretch her out so she looks like, you know, like all completely dog stretched out. And I fucking go, ooh, look at that. That's a dancer's leg. Look at that leg.
Paint me like your French girls.
But when I do it, she's on her back and she can't help but look up. And because she's looking up, she always sneezes. And because she's always stuffed, it's big, and then she breathes well. And my theory is that's why she likes me. She's like, he gets it. Like, Jennifer don't do that for her, but I'm like, I think I'm legitimately giving this dog a service that this dog's like, fucking aye, Captain, you know?
Do you think that dog might be allergic to dog dander? That's why it sneezes?
That would suck. It was allergic to itself?
Yeah.
That's such an existential crisis, man. No
What
wonder
do
the
I
dog,
do?
dog's always looking baffled, and that's why. It's like, I am allergic to myself. I am a German expressionist film.
This is the time we sneeze. So yeah, Jessica Jones.
Good?
I've seen 3 episodes. I like the first one quite a bit.
Okay.
I like the third one quite a bit.
Okay.
The second one is about Trish Walker,
Patsy.
Patsy, and yeah, I didn't need that one.
Is that right?
It's one of those things where like the first episode ends with a cliffhanger, and it's pretty strong, and then it comes back and you're like, fuck you and your cliffhanger. Let's talk about this chick for a while, and like Patsy / Trish was always my kind of least favorite part of that show. Like just what?
Was that an awe? You love the character. I thought that was an awe, like, oh, finally, somebody said it.
I know.
You're like,
Speak my
oh,
truth.
fucking Marc, you're wrong.
Oh,
like
you're a
character.
dick.
People say they don't like Patsy, so it was supposed to be like Carol, but
Because they're right. Thank you.
Did they do, is it, what's her character? It's Hellcat. Did they reference?
They do. There's a tiny little Hellcat nod in there, which is cute. But it's like the propulsion of the story was such that I didn't want to drop anchor with a character that I'm not as invested in as I am in my lead
I feel
this
you.
soon into the show. Like episode 2 is like, oh, we're just going to do a flashback episode about Patsy. Sure.
I just want to take you back to a time when the best comic book movie we had was like, yeah.
Not even then, you guys.
You know what I'm saying? And then they gave us such beauty, such perfection, man. And Netflix Marvel is done, and like it'll never happen again. And that beautiful shining jewel that we all wanted is now just fading away. And this is their last gasp. And as they lie there dying, you cut its fucking throat, man. You're like, fuck Patsy.
I choose to think of it as that I'm laying it on its back and I'm just pulling its legs. And look at you with your dancer's legs. Sneeze.
Did you make it sneeze?
all over my fucking face.
All right, so you watched the
So I watched the first three.
and three
it's-
you liked as well.
And three I liked as well because like it's a private eye story. It's a detective story, and once it gets back on its fucking clue trail, then you're like, all right, I'm in. I'm invested.
Who's the big bad?
We don't know yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's part of the mystery. But no, it's there's a lot of it to recommend, and it still is, I think, uniformly the best of those shows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't love the second season as much as I love the first. The first is
First
my
was fantastic.
favorite of any Marvel Netflix show.
I still love Daredevil season 1 as my all-time favorite, but I agree. As Jessica Jones season 1 is also right next to
it's
it.
exemplary, and I think that like on average, Jessica Jones has been better than the other shows have been on average. So I have faith. that it'll
Hot
find
take
its way.
for dead shows.
Yeah, you were almost the mean average of quality is okay.
So weird that it's all over. Remember when it was starting? We're like, oh my God, there's 13 fucking hours of Daredevil to watch. Like, yeah, it could have been 10, but fuck, I'll watch all 13 and shit.
Like I like pizza, more pizza, yeah.
Yeah. And now it's done, man. Fuck, it's all over.
Yeah.
Life
Like-
moves pretty fast.
If you don't stop once in a while and look around, you can miss it.
Profound. Well done. All right. Did you do anything else?
That
was it?
Nah, man. Nah. I mean, I apparently worked on
man.
two. I worked on 2 TV shows at once, which is probably not advised.
Yeah.
So don't tell my other boss. Internet.
He didn't, and he also didn't show up for the other day, so I became the other boss in this instance.
I know. I was like, where the fuck is he?
Yeah,
I'm
I was like,
sick.
where's Mark? And
Kev, I got a doctor's appointment.
yes, I didn't want to tell him he's at his other job.
Yeah, I've got 19 dead grandfathers.
Keep
Another
passing
one?
them out.
Keep passing them out. Everybody gets one.
Hey, so last week when we showed a bunch of shit that we got, premiums and stuff like that, who's the Ghostbuster fan in the bunch? This is the Scary Library Ghost. Anybody? Anybody? Is that, yeah? You want to catch?
Ooh.
Well done. I
That-
didn't throw it as much as propel it.
That
and
is a
shit.
hockey player's throw.
It was certainly not a baseball player's throw. This is a bag of Doritos. It's a Spider-Man, but yeah, fuck yeah, Doritos, tasty.
I like that you like went
And
to
this
7-Eleven
is
on the way
the bag
over.
that it came in, and it's a backpack. It says Doritos on it. I'll be honest, there were 4 pins, and I took 2 of the pins for myself. Yeah? Fuck yeah, you're standing? All right, pass it back to him. Whoa! What a manly throw! I thought that shit was gonna come back like a boomerang. Fuck, man.
I was All American. Dungeons and Dragons.
That was fucking impressive. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all we got for the upfronts. Now we're ready. Is that right or
That's
no?
it.
That's it. So now yes. We're
Yes.
diving into the news.
We're doing
Ladies
the
and
news.
gentlemen, Mr. Marc Barnard was a former news hound. He gave up the news biz to be a writer and shit like that, but news is in his blood. He can't get rid of it. So every once in a while, he just has to search fucking news out from people who already published it, and then brings it here to the bar and gives us the news. So Mark printed up the news. Give it up for Marc Barnard.
Someday I want the version of that intro that's like the Knight Rider intro.
Oh, Marc Barnard. He used to make the news.
Shadowy flight into the world that does not exist. Michael Knight, a lone crusader for truth and justice.
It sounds like you've already written it.
I'm just telling you, man. I just want the fucking like me in a Trans Am on the fucking salt flats with the sun rising behind me and Mike Post theme music underneath.
My intro's not good enough?
No, I want that plus all of it.
I
man.
know. It seems like a
I'm
lot.
greedy.
but Fair enough. Boy, we've created a monster. Fuck.
I know. So the first one is a slightly sad one. Vertigo Comics.
Oh. At least it wasn't a human being.
Who's
I was
not
like,
a human
what?
being. But yes.
But this is sad.
Farewell to Vertigo. DC.
Vertigo, DC's line, it's adult line,
Yes.
which was always misleading because I remember when they announced adult line, I was collecting back then. I was like, adult line, and looked for sex, none. It It just meant these were comics that were for people that weren't used to comics that were for grown-ups.
Right.
As the marketplace was shifting in the 80s, I believe this was when they started. Or early 90s?
Yeah, 93.
All right,
I
so
believe.
late, so early 93, my bad. Marketplace was shifting. We'd all seen grown-up comics at this point. Frank Miller had done Dark Knight Returns, the
Watchmen.
The Watchmen had happened and stuff, but there was no way to say, hey, this is where the comic books for adults go, which is what the marketplace had become, mostly adults and stuff. So they created this imprint called Vertigo, and that's like, before Vertigo, Swamp Thing, as written by Alan Moore, was just in the DC universe, which would have been confounding like to a Vertigo fan, because that's pure Vertigo material, just like Gaiman's Sandman and stuff like that. But they didn't have Vertigo when they did that book and stuff. So they created a line for books like that. Neil Gaiman's Sandman, of course, being one of the biggest and best and most well-remembered. What else did they do at Vertigo that I loved?
Preacher.
Why the Last Man?
Why the Last Man. Preacher.
Preacher.
Fables. Hellblazer.
Yes.
For a long time was published under there. Scalped.
That's right. Some of the
100
best
Bullets.
Garth Ennis stuff came out of Vertigo. He said Hellblazer. The Losers. The Kitchen, which has actually been turned into a feature, and it's coming out from Warner
Yeah.
Brothers, right? With Melissa McCarthy.
Transmetropolitan.
100 Bullets. Fuck, Azzarello. Absolutely right.
Yeah,
Spider Jerusalem,
Transmetropolitan was...
Transmetropolitan. They gave home to people like Warren Ellis.
Yeah, I mean, that was first published under Helix, was another imprint that went out of
Oh,
business.
my God. That went away a long
and
time
then
ago.
got absorbed by, like it was, and it became, in a real way, the first imprint that had an identity.
Yes.
In a way, like there was always Marvel, you're a Marvel kid, you're a DC kid, but Vertigo became like the HBO of comics, right? Like,
Ooh, well done. Excellent fucking poll, man. That's a good
yeah.
fucking
So like the minute you picked
analogy.
up a Vertigo book, you were guaranteed a certain amount of quality.
Yeah.
Often it wasn't in the art, because especially that first early wave of Vertigo, it seemed as if the art was so bad to focus on the words because it wanted to be literary.
Wow, fucking way to go after them as they die and shit.
I'm just saying.
In the beginning, they were hard to look
In
at,
the-
but we grew to love them anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, it's they did amazing stuff, amazing work. They gave birth to an amazing crop of creators, and they were inside of DC the creator-owned place for you to go. Like if you had an idea that was not going to be owned by DC, it was also came out just kind of around the Image era as well, and Image was doing creator-owned, and so this was DC's idea of how to keep creators and invite creators and give them ownership. Like this is your book, Brian K. Vaughan. Like we will take a little bit off the top to print it out, but like all this money is yours, and no other major company had done that before.
Karen Berger.
Karen Berger was the flagship editor.
Karen Berger kicked it off and was in charge for a long, long time.
She was until 2009, 2010, I think.
Yeah, she was kind of the heart and soul of the operation. It was her idea, her imprint, and she ran it the way she saw fit. And, she probably more than just Marvel and DC. I mean, I understand that DC was part of, Vertigo was part of DC. But the Vertigo line, probably more so than those two major imprints, were what brought me back into comic books, where I was like, oh my God, this is where it is now?
Yeah.
And she was a tastemaker. Think about it. Like all my favorite writers came out of England and worked at Vertigo, and she handpicked so many of them.
She would go over like once a year and just go sit down with Grant Morrison and Neil Gaiman and Garth Ennis. And
That's fucking right. Like,
like,
these,
bring
some of
them
these
in.
cats you don't get to, because did Vertigo do the Arkham Asylum hardcover? Or was that DC as the imprint?
I think that was DC.
Maybe she edited?
She might have. Because, Grant was the kind of writer at that time who, if you liked an editor and they had a good relationship, then that editor would do whatever he did. So it would not surprise me at all if he did Arkham Asylum too.
Yeah, man, it was a really amazing imprint, and now DC is just kind of letting it go.
They're letting it go. They're realigning their publishing line to make it a little bit more like divided by age. Like they've got a DC Kids line, which is just for like YA and young stuff, DC Proper, which is all their superhero titles, and then DC Black Label, which will be what...
Sounds sexy, man.
I know, right?
Sounds like we're gonna get high. This comic comes with a joint. Black Label.
But that is going to function much in the way that Vertigo did, which is this is our adult stuff, this is our not for kids line.
I read one of their rationales, which kind of made sense to me, where they're like, look, when we started Vertigo meant something because they're like, that could only be a Vertigo book. Mm-hmm. But he's like, to be fair, the comics industry has risen to that point where everybody kind of works on that level. Now, I'm not saying they're as good as all the Vertigo books, but they're not kidding themselves. They're all pretty much making comic books for adults at this point.
Right.
So they're like, you don't really need that differentiation. What you do need is differentiation to be like, these comics are for your kids, these comics are for your teenagers, these comics are for you, and let's be honest, your teenagers as well. Makes sense, I guess, but sad to see something go away. But it was beautiful and did so much, served its purpose and shit, and all good things come to an end, except, God willing, those Marvel movies. I don't know if I want to live in a world without that shit, but yeah, fuck.
And it also would not surprise me if in like 15, 20 years they decide to bring it back.
You're absolutely right.
Because nothing good ever stays
Wait
dead.
a second. In this realignment, what happens to Gerard Way's Young Animals?
It gets folded under the Black Label line, as does the Sandman stuff. Everything that they had been publishing, they're still publishing. They're just shifting it and putting a different tag on it.
Fair enough. But weird watching a big part of our past and history die.
Yeah.
Give it up for Vertigo, man. They fucking set a standard. All right, that's sad.
That's sad. You know what's making me happy, though?
What?
Flash Gordon.
What's going on? This is news to me.
This
You
is news to
actually
you.
caught
Am
me.
I breaking news?
You are. What's going on?
Sony wants to make an animated Flash Gordon film, and they've retained the services of one Taika Waititi to write and direct.
Oh, you have my attention, sir. Wow.
Yeah.
So Sony, the same people who gave us Spider-Man,
Yes.
are Into the Spider-Verse, are talking about doing an
Sony
animated
animation.
Flash Gordon.
Yes.
All right, so that also has my attention because they caught my attention big time with the last flick. But him, take all my money right now.
My love for Flash Gordon is ridiculous and unbounded.
God, he's the right guy because Thor Ragnarok played like a quasi sequel to Flash
yeah.
Gordon.
Totally.
It's clearly influenced it a bit.
It's probably going to be Ming, I think, but it's unclear. I mean, there's a Ming problem, clearly, because Ming came out of like the yellow peril of the 30s and 40s.
Is that right?
Yeah, like Ming.
Isn't he from another planet? He's from Mongo.
But he was always like an Asian guy. Yeah,
you just like fucking wasn't Max von Sydow played him?
Yeah, which is a whole other thing. I mean, that's a thing that you can't do anymore. But it's like Fu Manchu and Charlie Chan and Ming the Merciless all come out of that.
But Fu Manchu was from Earth.
Yes.
And Charlie Chan was from Earth. This is a guy who like comes from another planet. Yeah, he's really a mustache and fucking bald head. I don't think of him as Asian because I think of him as Max von Sydow. You could just make him blue or some such shit.
If they made him blue, that's a whole different thing. Instead, they made him yellow.
Wait.
In the comic strips.
In the comics they did?
Yes. He was Asian in the comics.
I was saying if we make him blue now, then it don't matter.
Oh, you could?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just make him an alien. He's from Mongo.
Yeah.
As long as he's fucking bald and he's got pointy eyebrows, it don't really fucking matter. And mean eyebrows, like fucking Clytus on board. Like, he just...
Right.
That
As long as he's a person of color, regardless of color, that's fine.
That's the rules?
Green. You can do green.
Yeah.
Totally. And I'm giving you this.
Thank you.
As
I gotta call my friend Taika Waititi and tell him
in my role as duly appointed ambassador of people of color, I've hereby granted you.
we get the A-OK from POC.
You totally do.
Thank you.
Roger. So that's happening. There's no date on it yet. It's still very early on.
To me,
but,
honestly, like legit exciting. I would look forward to that, man. True talent, working with true talents. Like that Spider-Man movie looked amazing. If that's what Sony Animation is up to, fucking go ahead. Take Flash Gordon. And smart to not just like, hey, let's do this live action, especially so close to Ragnarok, which is like, well, they just kind of did that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This might be a smart approach to a live action eventually Flash Gordon. You could certainly take the medium and stretch it and do fun things. Like, I look forward to that. That's hot. I had no idea that existed.
I will
until
just
right
be
now.
upset if they don't use the Queen music.
Oh, if they don't use boom,
I
boom,
kinda
boom,
want
boom,
the
boom,
Queen.
Flash. Ah, he saved every one of us.
Wow. We're going to go on tour, you guys. We can do it. Remember how we talked, it must have been like 6 months ago, that Millennium Films was making a Red Sonja movie?
Just say Jill Soloway's doing Red Sonja.
I was getting there.
That's fucking amazing. Give it up for Jill Soloway. She's doing Red Sonja.
Jill Soloway's doing Red Sonja.
I heard. That's amazing. When I saw this fucking story announced, I was like, oh my God, Millennium wins. Because remember, at first they were going like, no, we're going to stick with the original guy. And then finally the whole world was like, bro. And they were like, all right, yeah, we don't know what we were thinking. Then the question, of course, was like, well, they probably should go to somebody like, how about it's Red Sonja?
Yeah.
Maybe you should go for a woman. And they chose, well, now Jill Soloway is they. She's non-binary, is that correct?
I believe.
My bad. So I kept saying, Jill Soloway is a big, beautiful human being and is just the absolute fucking, like, brilliant choice.
Yes.
Not the first, not the most obvious. Some would argue not fucking commercial, but you don't need to be the commercial choice when you've got the commercial IP and the property. And a good idea paired with a good idea could be a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's the equivalent of like Sam Mendes doing a Bond movie, right? Which is
It's
like
actually fucking smarter. But yes, you're absolutely right.
but it's
Sam Mendes known for American
like
Beauty.
known for like prestige and award-winning stuff, like coming in and doing the genre thing to elevate the genre,
Right.
Because of experience and taste and class and all that. So yes, her coming in, Emmy award-winning director, writer, producer, Jill Soloway doing Red Sonja, is kind of a masterstroke.
When I read that, I was like, oh my God, like that's so fucking smart. Like they just saved that project because it was pretty fucking tainted. But right now, it's like, I saw a bunch of news sites generally would shit on news like that go, I'm into this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like people reconsider. And honestly, like, I don't know, that to me is interesting. Like I'll fucking see that take. Like I'll pay to see that take.
Yeah, way more interesting than the other one.
To say the least. But even more interesting than just like, hey, we're doing it again. We're doing Red Sonja again. Giving it to like somebody that like, they're not always like, hey, here's the 10 people we always give this shit to. Like just the same way Taika got to step up and go from like, what we do in the shadows or the, what was it? Wilder People?
For the Wilder People.
Wilder People. To Ragnarok. Like just pick somebody that is not the obvious fucking choice and let's see what fucking happens. Like, and that ain't a fucking commercial for me. I don't want to do that shit at all. I like these choices that they're making is all I'm getting at. They're not the fucking same people. It's not the obvious fucking choice. And I think it's going to result in fucking interesting movies. So far it's been working, man. So I think this is a really cool idea.
Yeah. We got there.
We did. That was big news, man. I
was
remember
big news.
reading that and being like, oh my God, that's so smart. All right, what else you got?
Marvel is thirsty. They are thirsty for the highest grossing movie of all time.
Oh, yes.
They're
so fucking close. And they, by the way, deserve it.
Right. They beat Avengers Endgame did beat Avatar in its initial theatrical run. Avatar was re-released a bunch of different times in the theater. And so now
Was it re-released?
It was. Yeah. Like
I didn't know that.
yeah. Like everybody gets like when a movie's like that it gets its fancy ass re-release. And so Marvel is now bringing Avengers Endgame kind of quote unquote back into theaters. It's never really left, but they're adding a deleted scene with like temp effects.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they're not fully realizing, and it's like here's the scene we cut that we didn't want to spend.
And they're not putting it into the movie proper. They're adding it to.
They're adding it to the end. They're adding an intro with Joe Russo, and they're adding a sort of featurette, I think, leading into Spider-Man: Far From Home. So like a sort of extended
and a Stan Lee memorial thing. I
and a
heard.
Stan Lee memorial thing.
Look, that's great that they're even throwing us a bone to incentivize it. For me, all they had to say was like, "We're so fucking close. Go one more time."
Yeah.
Because I was down for the cause. You know, little victories in life, that's all I look for. And somebody's like, we have a chance to fucking overtake Avatar. I'm like, that's the kind of mindless bullshit that I need to get behind. And
Yeah.
so I'd be all for it. I would have done it without them.
They're somewhere in like $35 million shy. And so is this enough to get them over the hump? I don't know. But
Right.
they're hoping. They're making one last fucking valiant effort.
I'm going to go. I'll go one
You
more
going
time.
one more time?
Yeah, I got 3 hours to kill. But I would like to see him do it. And not because I'm like, fuck Avatar. I just reward that series, man. Like, it gave me so much joy. And they seem to want that dopey crown. Give it to them. They're so fucking close. Like, I'm all for it. I'm all for this last. If they're thirsty, let's give them something to drink. 40 million more. How many more to get it there?
Somewhere around 35 million.
All right, sounds doable and shit.
Yeah.
If I was them, man, I would just leave it in theaters for
Never
10
take it
years,
out.
man. Even if they were like, we did $300 this week, we're like, we're almost there. We're gonna beat those fucking blue cats. All right, so that's happening. That's one as of this Friday. Thursday
That's
night?
this Friday, yeah.
All right, reason to go to the movie theater, and
Reason
that's
to go.
right before Spider-Man opens a few days later.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they're going to be competing against themselves to a certain degree. Well, not really, because one's Disney and one's Sony.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only other competition it has is Yesterday, which is opening on Friday, the Beatles movie. Danny Boyle's Beatles movie.
Yes.
One other piece of news is kind of less news and more rumor, I think. But let's talk about it, because
Okay.
I'm not a journalist anymore. I only play one on TV. The rumor is that Michael B. Jordan's Matrix film.
Wait, what?
Yes. No, we
You say that like we were all supposed to know
had
this.
talked about it before.
Is there a Matrix film with Michael B. Jordan in it?
Zach Penn, who wrote Ready Player One, God, like
Amongst
6 or
other
7
things.
months ago. Amongst other things. The first, he's credited on the Avengers as well. Like 6 or 7 months ago, tweeted that he was, yes, indeed, working with Warner Brothers on a new Matrix movie. The rumor was that Warner Brothers desperately wanted Michael B. Jordan to be the star of this Matrix movie.
The Neo?
The Neo. Proto-Neo.
Thank you. I felt kind of proud
Yes,
of that. And it
wordplay.
went over like a lead balloon. I'm like, fuck, my shit's off.
The rumor is that the Wachowskis are coming back to do this fourth Matrix
Oh,
film.
right on. Really?
Yes.
Good.
That is unconfirmed by everyone. So, like, take it with, like, a salt lick and not just a grain of salt. But it would be... I want to see them make good on what the last couple of Matrix movies were. Like, I feel like if they come back now, they can save every one of us.
From?
The last two Matrix movies.
We'd have to go back in time.
I know.
You're saying in some, not that they need to by any stretch of the imagination, but this fourth Matrix movie could make up for 2 and 3?
It's just like, if you're going to go out strong.
Smart.
Because it's hard to recall being quite as disappointed as I was after the first 20 minutes of like Matrix Reloaded, where like I was so fucking excited for those movies. Like, they got everybody back, and it's the directors, and we're doing it, and the trailers are fucking awesome. And then you sit there and you're like, but okay, sure, what? Car chase, cool. I mean, yeah,
As the
that's a choice.
director of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, I have no comment whatsoever.
It's all me.
Um,
But yes, that is.
so
that-
wait, so that's the rumor, is that,
That is the
the
rumor.
Wachowskis might come back.
Correct.
That'd be fucking genius. It'd be, I mean, I understand like it's a Warner Brothers property at this point, it belongs to them, they can do whatever they want with it, but the Wachowskis so tied to, like, I can't think of creator separation that makes less sense. That was so uniquely them.
Yeah.
And to then just have somebody be like, you know, we love Batman. We talk about Batman. I've worked in comics on Batman. They make 1,000 versions of Batman all the time. It's a character that could have a bunch of permutations or interpretations, and nobody ever goes, oh, we're shitting on the memory of Bob Kane, because most people are like, well, he's not really the guy or whatever the fuck. So, but The Matrix is so fucking Wachowski's.
Yeah.
And I know they've done Animatrix, but didn't they also write
They
those?
oversaw. I mean, they were the executive producers, and they oversaw everything.
This was their baby, and it, you know, I don't give a fuck. Like, we do razz on the 2 and the 3 of it all, but like, Matrix is hands down one of the 50 most brilliant pieces of pop culture cinema ever made, and I feel shitty throwing in pop culture cinema, so I'll just fucking take out pop culture and just say one of the 50 best, most original, most inventive fucking movies like ever fucking made. And so to have those cats be like, oh, we're just gonna have somebody else do it, didn't feel fucking right. Feels way more right to have the Wachowskis come back.
Yeah, like having them come back and do another Matrix is like having George Miller come back for Fury Road.
Yes.
Where it's like, oh, I almost didn't know that I wanted it, but now that I'm hearing about it, it makes all the sense in the world. To the point where you can't imagine anybody else doing that.
And did anybody else ever handle Mad Max?
No.
No, right? It was always
Yeah,
George
it's
Miller?
always George Miller.
So that's like very uniquely identified with him as well. Yeah, man, that's cool news.
Yeah. I'll
On
take
2
it.
fronts. I mean, we talked about the Michael B. Jordan thing.
We did, yeah.
Jesus, I smoke away half the show, and then I get to enjoy it later on when you.
What?
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck? And you're like, we
Shut
just
up.
talked about this. All right, what other news we got?
That's it, man.
That's it.
That's it.
Slim News Week. I hate these weeks or months where we go back to back to back on the shows because not a lot happens from Tuesday to Tuesday. I guess that's a lot of news.
We did all right, man.
I'm getting spoiled, I guess. Well, is there video game news, man? Where's Nate? You know
All right,
something
the
about
Harry Potter AR.
This is Nate Gonzalez. Everybody give it up for Nate.
I'm the youth
Dark
correspondent now, I guess.
Nate. Nate's the guy who does the artwork for our show that you've seen online and that we sell here at the Cantina. He's an artist, but he's an artist in residence, but he's also...
I'm the smartest in residence.
Well done. He's also
No more rhyming, I mean it.
a cat who knows a thing or two about games. So we were talking about backstage. There's a new Harry Potter game that got announced because we were like, what news are we going to talk about? Because that's how the show comes together. We're in the alleyway and we're like, what the fuck are we going to do? And so we brought up the video game, but you didn't know enough other than there is a game.
Right.
I didn't know enough other than there is a game.
I knew it was like Pokemon Go, which I also didn't play. But that was about it.
Nate seemed to know something about it, so we said we're going to give the mic to Nate. Everyone give it up for Nate. Tell us about this proposed video game.
Well, they just released a Harry Potter skinned Pokemon Go game, which is essentially, since Pokemon Go came out, 20 years ago? They've basically just like a bunch of different companies. I don't know. I know the Harry Potter one is the same company, but like a couple of different franchises have tried to do that game.
Right.
Like Ghostbusters did it. Walking
Ghostbusters
Dead
did one?
Ghostbusters did it.
How
yeah.
was the Ghostbusters one?
It's fine. Look,
Ringing endorsement, man. That's a poster quote right there.
and I love
It's fine.
Ghostbusters. It's my favorite movie. But they're mobile games, you know. They're just, you got to pay to play, pay to win, and it's all microtransactions. So it's the base game itself, or at least I'm going by the Ghostbusters one because I didn't play, and I played a little bit of Pokemon. But the Ghostbusters one especially is just like, yeah, if you want to progress.
Is that you guys all have it? What, the Ghostbusters
Nerds.
one? Or
No, they were Wizards Unite.
that's the Harry Potter one? Oh, it's available already?
Just came out, yeah.
It's
What?
fine, apparently.
Chloe, do you know a thing or two about it?
Acceptable.
It's aggressively.
Jump up onto the wall and grab a mic. And
Yeah, come on, Chloe. Come
Chloe's
say hi.
played it, man. Chloe's here, everybody. Give it up for Chloe Dykstra. Not that Nate, you did a fine job, Nate, but she's
Yeah, you
actually
did
played
great.
the game.
Sorry, Nate. Sorry to steal the mic from you. Yeah, it's fine. Like, I played it for a day. I was like, oh, it's basically Pokemon Go, but slightly less.
Now,
I
are you
feel like
trying to
there's
find-
less of an incentive to do things in it.
Are you trying to find like other players, or is that part of the game? Where it's like, oh, you're Hufflepuff, and
Yeah,
you're
but
Ravenclaw,
that's-
and
Oh my
I'm
God,
not
wait, do they
Hufflepuff.
fucking sort you into
I'm
not
houses?
Hufflepuff.
I mean,
How dare
don't
you.
fucking shame the Hufflepuffs. They're fine.
No, my boyfriend's a Hufflepuff, so.
Right? Say they're cuddly, and that's awesome.
Do you get to pick your houses?
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Or do they sort you into it?
No, you get to pick it. I went through Pottermore, so I
Potter
just use
porn.
Potter porn.
Is that a thing?
My favorite
Rowley's-
website.
Yeah,
the wizard chooses the wand.
God, that is very
And then they
specific.
pull out the
That
watch and they turn
space
back
work.
time and nothing ever happened.
What's a quaffle? You don't want to know.
Yeah, basically you have to walk. I hate it.
Oh, it's one of those games where
It's
you're
one
doing
of those-
this shit.
You have to walk around, find inns, and then you find, what are they called? What are the things called? They're, no, not the fortresses. They're called the confoundables. Yeah. And then you have to banish them
You
back
work
to
for
the-
Warner Brothers, so you know.
Ah.
Maybe you should be up here. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's Harry
come on
Potter,
up.
Pokemon Go.
It's like it's items within the magical universe.
Here we go, another
It's-
opinion.
It's items within the magical universe that you have to either free or collect to turn back into the Ministry of Magic.
Oh, right on. So it's like the map and shit, the Marauders
Yeah, it's the same
map
exact
and all
map.
that
You
stuff.
just have to send them back to the Wizarding World. But it's fun. It's
That's
fun.
dope.
It's
If
fun.
you're-
And
if
it's
you-
it's
you
a
have to
pay to
make-
play game?
No, I would say it's not.
It's free?
Yeah. Yeah, you absolutely can. It's kind of like Pokemon Go. You can enjoy it without paying, but you have to have friends and you have to like walking and, you know.
Walking, I'm out, man.
Yeah.
Walking in friends.
No.
Walking, that's for fucking muggles.
Good one.
All right, man. Give it up for Chloe. She played the game.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. Before we dive into, normally we dive into Q&A, but we got fucking
We got a
special,
guest.
Yeah, guest, man. Marc hooked us up. You would imagine, like me, I work in the business, I know people and shit like that. I'm a director, I've casted people. I should be coming in with guests galore, but every guest so far I think we've ever had, Marc's brought in, and I'm so appreciative for it.
Yes, but I was at Comic-Con, I want to say a couple of years back, and at some party at some place, I can't remember. There was alcohol, and our guest came up. He's like, "Man, I love the fucking podcast." I was like, "Thank you so much. You're far too handsome to be liking our podcast. This is getting weird." And he's like, "Well, no, it's because I'm on this show. It's on SYFY called Krypton." He didn't say it Krypton. I just like to say Krypton because that.
Krypton.
But it's very Marlon Brando.
Very Marlon Brando to
The
say
Krypton.
Krypton.
And then I remember DC had like a watch-along premiere party for it, and he flew in from the UK, and I was invited to this thing, and we just kind of hung out for a bit. I'm like, man, if you're ever back in LA, you should come on the podcast. He said, I would fucking love to. And then he's like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna do the accent. I just moved to Los Angeles, and I'm around. I was like, do you want to come to the podcast? He's like, I'd love to. He's like, you want to be on the podcast? I would fucking love to. So
So he's from
That's
Massachusetts.
exactly how I said it as well.
right, no, I got
Yeah.
I got that right. And so yes, welcome to the hotspot, Cameron Cuffe, the star of SYFY and DC's Krypton.
Cameron Cuffe, everybody!
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Oh, cheers, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Cameron, it is. I mean, do you try to fucking look like Superman? Yeah.
And I'm
With
a
the
completely different
glasses?
person. No one can recognize me anymore.
It is uncanny. When I pulled up, I was like, oh my God, he's here.
Too kind.
What, you're going into season 2? Season 2 is
Yep.
about to happen?
Season 2's just started.
It just started.
Yep. Episode 3 is on this Wednesday. You can still catch up on SYFY Online or on demand.
And this is the season with Lobo.
Lobo, absolutely. Yeah,
Lobo's
it's
gonna get a showbo.
Lobo's gonna get a showbo indeed. It's really exciting. Like, one of the cool things about our show is we're sort of committed to doing the cosmic aspect of the DC universe, and we debuted characters like Adam Strange and Lobo, and there are many, many more we want to do.
That's where that show got my vote instantly. Like, I remember when they first talked about this, I don't know if it was here on Hollywood Babylon, we were like, a fucking show about Superman's grandpa. Fuck
That'll never
that.
fly.
Yeah, and fucking literally it is flying, and they're going into their second season, and by all reports, like, legit wonderful, and I know people that have worked on it and stuff like that. They're bringing in cool new ideas.
Yeah.
They're really making it fucking work in a way that, like, at first you were like, no, this couldn't possibly. What was the process like to be picked as Superman's grandpa?
Yeah, it was kind of. I before I was ever involved in it, I was just a fan. I'm a huge DC fanboy, and I saw it get announced, and I was like, Superman's grandfather, really? Why? And like, the thing is, I was in those comment sections. I was watching people shit on my show before I was in it. Like it was sort of crazy to watch. But then all of a sudden, it happened, and the audition happened. I was still doing like theatre and indie movies and stuff like that in London, and then Krypton came around, and I was like, this is a massive American. This is Superman. Like they're not gonna. Why would they be interested in me? And I went in and I did a tape, and I got turned down for it twice, but it never went away. And then eventually I was working on my first American TV show in Brooklyn. And
What was the first American TV show?
it was a show that lasted about 6 episodes, and then
What was it called?
It was called Time After Time. It was
Was it based on the movie Time After
based on the
Time?
movie Time After Time. Yeah.
Who was in it besides you?
Josh Bowman and Freddie Stromer were in it. It was an ABC show. It was a really fun show. It was really lovely to do, and you know, like a lot of shows nowadays, just didn't find the audience. But
I fucking love that movie.
Yeah, it was a great
Such
movie.
a genius flick. All right, so you're working on that
I was
show.
working on that, and then all of a sudden I get a phone call from my agent that says, you know, you got to do another tape for Krypton.
Right.
And at this point I was sort of saying like, look, I'm working sort of 14-hour days here, and this is my first big American thing, and I want to make sure I do a good job. So let's just ask, you know, is there anything I can do differently? Because I've been turned down multiple times at this point. And then I got a phone call that night saying, bring your suitcases to set because you're flying to LA tomorrow. And there I was in a room in LA 24 hours later testing for David Goyer, who's a hero of mine. You know, made 2 of the greatest comic book films of all time. You know, he's an incredible guy. And there I was, and I kind of still didn't think I'd get it. So I saw the sides, and I thought they could be played really earnestly and sort of straightforward and very sort of stoic. But then I saw that there was actually a lot of humor in them, and that this was something different. It was something cool, and I decided to go a little bit more with the sort of the roguish aspect of it and bring a bit more humor into it. And I think I was the first person to make them laugh, and I think that was the thing, and I ended up getting the role. And then I was in Serbia 3 days later filming the pilot, which was...
Is that where they shot the pilot?
Yeah, we shot the pilot in Serbia. Yeah. It was, and then we film
At
in
that
Ireland
point,
now.
so it's like you're cast, you're it. You're like, fucking hey, where are we going? They're like, Serbia. You're like, fuck. Fuck, that's the phantom zone of shooting. Fuck.
Yeah, no, it was.
Was it nice over there?
It was. Belgrade's great. It's a really amazing city, and it was really, really cool because we had this amazing backlot. And the thing is, the thing that most people don't realize about the show is that it's all practical, except for the cityscapes. All of those sets are real. You know,
is that right?
It's really like being there. We had a bar not unlike this bar, which is the first time you see me in the show. And all the backlots are there. They're all real. It's really genuinely being in that world. So in Serbia, we genuinely had this massive cityscape of Candor.
I imagine
which
the
is
buck
incredible.
was a lot further there than it would here. So
Indeed,
that was the
yeah.
pilot. Where do you guys shoot the...
Belfast, Ireland. Yeah, it's good fun.
So this is a show that requires a fucking passport to work on, man. Like,
Well,
they send you all over the world.
We're all Brits or Irish, so it kind of makes sense.
I guess so, yeah.
Everyone's like, why are Kryptonians English? It's like, well, it's cheaper.
So take us back a bit, because I know that you're a nerd.
Yes, sir.
A self-described nerd. Where did your nerddom begin?
I grew up with the great animated series. I grew up with Andrea Romano and Bruce Timm, and like Kevin Conroy's my Batman. I open up, right? He is like those, like Andrea Romano, I think, is one of the greatest directors of all time. To find those actors who are just those roles. I pick up a comic book now, I open it and I read it, and those are the voices I hear. And I think we all kind of grew up with a sort of cursory knowledge of who these characters are. If you think about it, like the JLU cartoon was, in many ways, one of the first shared universes. So I grew up with it with a lot more knowledge than people in prior generations might not have. And then I picked up, you remember those big encyclopedias on Batman?
Yeah.
I opened up one of them, and that was the first time I learned about Jason Todd. And that was the first time I learned about Tim Drake and Dick Grayson, and how all these people are distinct Robins, and all of their relationships are so deep, and it goes much further than that. And then I picked up Jeff Johns' Teen Titan run. And that was the thing that just blew it all open for me, because you realize that this is a universe that has deep, deep mythology that is all based on personal stakes and personal relationships. And that was what brought me into comic books. That's why I love it now. It's all about people connecting to each other, and I really just loved that.
You were a DC kid then, clearly.
Always.
Yeah.
Very much so.
You never went on the other side of the street?
I did. I always loved the X-Men. But I think for me, the reason I loved DC, and maybe it's because I came to it first, but as a universe, it always felt more connected to me. It always felt like everything sort of emanates from the Justice League outward. And again, it's that thing of the personal relationships. You can really clearly trace the relationship between the Outsiders and the Justice League, and the Injustice League and the Justice League. It all seems to be based on that, whereas I loved characters within Marvel, but the Hulk wasn't so connected to the X-Men.
Marvel stuff, I'm sure somebody online will kick me in the nuts for saying it, but felt more episodic, whereas the DC stuff to me always felt more soap operatic.
Yeah.
Like it felt like an ongoing dishy universe of like, oh, did you see what fucking Tim Drake did? And shit, like more so than the Marvel stuff was very episodic, and they could cross over characters and stuff, but here's your adventure, and they just kept their universe kind of going and constantly referred to shit that happened. Like, that's how I read it.
It felt like the stakes of the universe were more sort of present in the stories, and I'm sure that there are plenty of Marvel fans who would disagree, but for me, it was always just DC.
So, and what part of the UK did you grow up in?
London.
Well,
Right, like in the fucking...
right in the middle of London, Hammersmith.
Wow.
What is this? Oh my God, fucking where the Apollo is.
Exactly.
I played at the Apollo. What is it like to grow up in...
I didn't.
To be fair, it was the London, Hammersmith Apollo, not the Apollo. What is it like growing up in, like, some people, of course, grew up in this city, but what's it like growing up in, like, that to us is fucking exotic as fuck. Like, ooh, London.
I mean, it's cool, and the thing is, like, London, I think, now means something different than it did then. Like, and I said to you before, growing up in London in the 90s was kind of like growing up in America in the 80s. Like, we were just a little bit behind, like, in terms of, like, fashion style and all that sort of stuff. But the thing that my dad's from Boston, he's from America, and my mother's from London. And for me, that meant I grew up with stories. I grew up with American movies and then British theatre. And I remember the first time I went to this, and sorry, Chloe, I'm about to reference your father's work. The first time I ever went to the cinema was the 1990s re-release of A New Hope. You know, and that to me was how we spent time together as a family, was watching the movies. So London, I think, was perfect for me because it was such a gateway to all of that. You had movies, you had amazing art, you had amazing culture. And it's a gateway to Europe as well, so you could travel. But for me, my childhood was films, and I think very naturally from there, a segue to comic books.
And a big comic book culture there as well.
Huge. Well, you guys were saying before, so many of the great comic book talents, and you know, Mark Miller, Grant Morrison, Gary Frank, Alan Moore, you know, there's a real history of comic books in England for sure.
Was it, what's it like being a British actor who wants to do genre stuff in an environment where your local productions weren't making a lot of genre stuff? Like coming out of, you know, university and wanting to get into it, like what path did you decide to set for yourself to hopefully get here?
Yeah, I truthfully, I never thought I would. You know, I think, you know, I grew up in London. I trained to be an actor in Ireland, and I think the expectation is that you go into theatre, and that's where I was for a while. That's where I was before Krypton. I was doing, you know, costume dramas and, you know, putting on a weird costume and mustache and anyone for tea and all sort of that, you know. And it's you know, it isn't Star Wars. It's not comic books. But the thing is, I was just sort of content to be a fan. That's what it was to me. I thought, you know, I'm always going to enjoy this thing, but it's so far away, and it felt so far away. But, you know, with the advent of things like self-taping and stuff like that, the industry is so global now, it's not far away. And also, half of the stuff shoots in Pinewood anyway. So, like, it's not as far away as it once was. But I think, yeah, in London, you don't really expect that this will I feel like I won the lottery. That's the truth of it all. I feel like I got tremendously lucky, and I'll never feel anything different, really.
Now, you get your 3 episodes into season 2. Has season 1 marinated enough? Like, it's on SYFY. That's
Yes,
where
sir.
folks can watch it. But has it gone to wherever its next life is? Does it go to a Netflix or something
you
like
guys
that?
can all watch it on the DC Universe streaming app.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
for
It's
sure.
on the
Yeah,
DC Universe
season 1's all there. The season 2 premiere is there as well.
So now, at this point, what is do people go like, holy fuck, you're Superman's grandpa and shit like that?
I always say I'm at the... No, I walk around in glasses and no one recognizes me. It's perfect. I'm at the perfect level of fame which means that people only give a shit who I am in San Diego within 3 blocks on one weekend of the year. It's
That's a
fucking
great
perfect.
currency right there.
It's great.
Man.
One weekend of the year, I'm super famous within a 3-block radius, and then I can go home and no one cares, and it's wonderful.
Have you? Did they do a panel pre? Have you done San Diego? For
Yeah, I did my first. Well, it's funny you mentioned you didn't remember how we met. That was one of the best nights of my life because
I
Tom
get that all the
Taylor.
time.
Genuinely, the thing is, Tom Taylor, the writer of Injustice, one of my favorite comic books, literally took me under his wing and said, "Hey man, I know you're a huge fan," and we were just friends from Twitter. And he took me around. He introduced me to Jim Lee and Steve Orlando, Nicholas Scott. Like, right? It was one of the most, because the thing is, I genuinely am just a nerd living the dream. And when I go to Comic-Con, for me, that's about meeting the comic book people. Like that. Those are the people who told my stories, who still tell my stories, and they're the most people. And for me, Comic-Con's a deeply special place, and always will be.
Beauty.
Yeah, it's lovely. So you're done production on,
Yes, sir.
on the second season. Do you guys have any inkling about season 3? Have you heard a thing?
Well, you know, we announced this development happening on a Lobo show, a Showbo. A Showbo. And hopefully season 3 follows swiftly on from there. But there are so many stories we want to tell. As I said, this is a story of the DC cosmic universe. There are so many characters like the Omega Men, like Thanagar and Ran, and places that we want to go.
When they the moment they made Adam Strange a character, I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, man, that's deep
Yeah.
cuts. Like, that's so smart. He's such a great character. And they figured out a way to use him, like, creatively to make that Superman story work. Like,
Absolutely.
and grab me, where I was like, you know, first they were like, Superman's grandpa. I'm like, ugh. And then they were like, but his friend is Adam Strange. And I was like, oh, everybody shut the fuck up.
Well,
That's the champion of Ron. Shut up.
Well, can I give you guys another little... I'm about to spoil the shit out of season 1.
Okay.
But this is what the show really is. Everyone thought that this show coming up was going to be a Superman prequel. That's not what the show is. This is an Elseworld story. And I'll tell you the reason why. So everyone thought that, you know, it's Adam Strange coming back in time, says, Brainiac's coming, and I need your help to stop him because Superman's amazing. In about episode 4, Seg gets kidnapped by a man. This man knows about Brainiac. He knows about the future. He knows about Superman. Lyta Zod, who's in a relationship with Seg, rescues him with Adam Strange. Adam Strange looks at that man and says, we got to kill him right now. Seg, I got this all wrong. It's not Brainiac who came back. It's this guy. And General Zod looks at Lyta Zod and says, hello, mother. It's General Zod. General Zod came back in time to Krypton to save Krypton. That's what the show is.
Wait, what?
Did you not know this?
Fucking, you just did a better job of selling that show than SYFY did that whole fucking season. Say it again, but say it slow.
Yes. Okay. So here we go.
Zod is the hero?
Yes. Because the thing is, think about General Zod
That
as a
sounds
character,
like some
right?
shit Marc would make up on this show.
It's
What
the
if
better
Zod
show.
was the hero? And I was like, oh my God, why isn't anyone doing that? But they're doing it.
He is, because think about General Zod as a character. All he's ever wanted is to save Krypton. That's all he's ever fought to. He's always been a very honest person. He doesn't see himself as a villain. All the best villains think of themselves as heroes. And General Zod in this show is. And Adam Strange never told Seg that Krypton blows up. He never told Seg that Krypton has to die for Superman to live. Whereas General Zod says, yes, Superman was my enemy. Kal-El was my enemy. But all I've ever wanted was to save this planet. And he chose them, the humans, over us. These people who are obsessed with greed and hatred. All I've ever wanted is to save our people. And Seg sees this man and says, yeah, he's got a plan. This dude seems like a good
I
bloke.
understand why they cast you, number one. Fucking, I was, right away, I was like, yes,
Yeah.
I believe all of
Whatever
this.
you want.
Oh my God.
And
fucking, God damn it, they don't need to spend any money on ads. They just put a camera on you and go like, this is what happens this week.
Here we go.
I would totally watch it. That was dramatically explained. Excellent.
And you have awesome conversations like, you know, Jor-El, like Zod mentioning that, yes, Kal-El was an enemy of mine, but your son was my best friend. You know, and you really get into the sort of the nitty-gritty of those relationships, which is what comics is all about. And so season 2 is, if season 2, once again, sorry, Chloe, if it had a Star Wars style opening crawl,
You must have to do that a lot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The first sentence of the Star Wars opening crawl of Krypton Season 2 would be Zod has won. Zod's defeated Superman. Zod is starting a Kryptonian empire. And that's where we start with Season 2. So really, you could just start Season 2 right now if you wanted to.
But wait a second. So Zod, does he not want Superman to happen, or
His pitch is, I've always extended my hand to Kal-El. I never took any pleasure in being his enemy, but I just want Krypton to live. That's all I want. If Kal-El comes to be, then Kal-El comes to be, but I just want to save our people. And then you end up with Adam Strange sort of saying, like, no, but you don't understand. Like, the great flaw of Adam Strange's character is that he can't communicate the miracle of Superman. You know, but he can't, to Seg, it's all just numbers, because Adam says trillions of people will die if this man doesn't exist. But Seg just hears, this is my home, this is my family. What? And there's a really brilliant speech in episode 6. I'm ruining all of this.
no, you're fucking selling all of this, man. There's a difference.
And it was kind of meta where Seg sort of blows up at the two of them, both Zod and Adam, and he just sort of says, forget about the numbers. And it's really a statement about what the show is itself, is what is the point of all of this if it just ends in fire and death? You know, and that's not what Seg feels, but it's what the show is. What is the point of telling the story of this planet if it doesn't matter? And our show is, it does. The timeline has changed.
That's so fucking metal. Give it up.
It's
What a great
hardcore.
explanation. Oh my God.
Thank you guys so much.
That's amazing.
Krypton is apparently the best show that you're not fucking watching right now. Now I know what I'm doing with my free time. How many episodes in season 1?
It's 10. It's a very, very short running show. It's 10 episodes, very focused
Fucking
story.
A, well sold. I'm buying in. Fucking, you had me at Krypton.
Thank you.
What is it like entering the very small fraternity and sorority of folks that have worn the fucking symbol?
Man, it's the most special thing in the world, and I think any actor, hopefully, when they get a role like this, understands what it means. This isn't like any other job. This is, you're carrying a flag that means so much to millions of people the whole world over. And when I felt alone when I was a kid, I'd read Superman books. And I always sort of thought, if there's anyone who's going to care about this, it's going to be me. And there was a moment in the first episode of season 1 where Seg is past Superman's cape. It's kind of like the Marty McFly photo in Back to the Future. Adam Strange brings it back in time and says, you know, if this cape disappears, Superman's gone. And he gives it to Seg and says,
That's
it's on
the
you
ticking
now.
clock?
That's the ticking clock. And so there I was.
This show is amazing, man. I'm about to cry. Like, all of this is fucking great.
It's a beautiful thing that I'm a part of, and holding that cape in the Fortress of Solitude, I was literally trembling. You know, we have the set of the Fortress of Solitude, and there I am holding Superman's cape. You know, you talked about the romanticism of making films, but this is that to the 1,000,000th degree.
That is fucking dope.
I hear on your planet, the S stands for hope.
Indeed it does. You might hear that a few times throughout the show.
Did they call it in the real world? What do you call it?
The sigil, the symbol.
The sigil.
They call it the glyph in CW world. Like Supergirl's
Yeah.
S is called the glyph. They're always like, be careful of the glyph. Don't get anything on the glyph. Get your hand off the fucking glyph. And the first few times they said it, I was like, I don't know. I'm a comic book guy. I don't know what that means. But the glyph, I guess the hieroglyph it comes from or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's how they describe it. What
Or
do they
Prince.
describe it for?
Called the glyph, but it's also called the sigil, the sigil of
sigil.
House L. You know, it's. I wanted to say something about the CW guys. I met Grant Gustin, my first ever Comic-Con, and it was a magical moment because I adore the Flash. And you know, we're a different network, and we're doing something slightly different. And the cool thing about Krypton is that it's an Elseworld story. We get to take a risk. But I was super jet lagged coming up from London, and I woke up about 5 a.m, and I went to the gym in this hotel in San Diego, and it was me and Grant Gustin, which was great as the bloody Flash, you know. And
The Flash and Superman's grandpa were working out together.
yeah, it was really cool. But I went over to him and said, look, if it wasn't for you guys, if it wasn't for the amazing work you guys have done, we wouldn't be here. So thank you for doing everything you've done so that we could be here. And then the next year at San Diego, I was running to do press in these massive hotels, like hallways the size of football fields. And he was running to do press, and I was running to do press, and I thought, he's not even gonna remember my name. Grant Gustin, one of the most beloved TV stars in America, runs all the way from one end of the hall to the other end of the hall, gives me a huge hug, and says, Cameron, how was season 1, man? Like, just the nicest guy.
That's
and everyone I've met
classy,
from the
man.
CW has
He's
been
a
so
good boy.
wonderful.
How fast was he? Like, did it take him a long time to cover that distance?
Yeah, we were like, this shit. And also, when he reached you, we were like, let's fucking race.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Man, this has been wonderful, man.
I tell you, man, like, you literally sold the fucking show to two people who probably should have been watching it in the first place. But to be fair, nobody has explained it in such a way that made me go, oh, I'm fucking stupid for not having watched that, man. Like, I'm fucking in. And so season, it is really good. You have to fucking say that. But it is really good. I mean, fucking the way
She'd say it's fine.
Yeah.
The
the
lighting
show
is
you
lovely.
described, I absolutely am going to start watching instantly.
Thank
Season 2, though, where does Lobo come in instantly? See, 1,
He
2,
comes in right at the end of episode 1, and then episode 2 is an all Lobo spectacular, and then next week is going to be one of the most memorable action scenes in any comic book TV show. Then Lobo is the center of it, and I really want you guys to watch it. So catch up.
fucking A,
It's on
man.
TV tomorrow. It's going to be
Hell
really
yes.
exciting.
Episode 4?
Episode 3.
3.
Episode 3.
Is Lobo fight scene.
Yeah, and hey, we've got Doomsday this year. We've got Brainiac.
What?
There's so much more going on, man. Here's the thing.
Are you fucking, like, why aren't they telling people this?
Hey, man. Like,
It's my, like, whole thing to know shit like this, and really, Doomsday?
Yeah.
Are you sure you're not spoiling something
no,
here?
no. He's in all the ads. Like, no. It's there, man. And here's
Does
the
he
thing.
look like him?
Oh, dude.
He does?
It looks. And here's the really cool thing. Again, going back to the practical. It's a puppet. In motion, it's CGI, but in real life, it's a bloody tall puppet.
They built
that
Doomsday.
emotes and breathes, and it's incredible. It's so cool.
That's pretty dope, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right,
Look,
Yoda.
we understand the skepticism about, a show about Superman's grandfather, but we took a lot of risks with this, and we believe in this, and this is something different. And if you give us a chance, we feel you won't regret it.
I'm gonna fucking cry. Give it up for Cameron. That's beautiful, man. Way to advocate for your fucking art, man. You just converted a bunch of people and shit. Once they got to season 2, I'm like, they must be doing something right. And some people I know and trust were like, I don't know, dude. I think you'd like this, but fucking, you've just pushed me over the top.
Hell yeah.
We've got the rest of the show to get to, so give it up for Cameron, everybody.
Guys, thank you guys so much.
Excellent job. Excellent job. So weird that it's like, I felt like I've just discovered something, and it took the fucking star of the show to help me discover it, but like, fucking whatever works, man. Last few mornings I've been waking up, and there has been nothing that I'm like, oh, let me get back to watching that. So it's going to be fucking Krypton now. That's going to be dope. All right, this is the part of the show folks really enjoy. It's the Q&A part of the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we let you folks direct where we're heading for the rest of the evening. We let JC, our proprietor here, pick 3 people from the audience and ask us questions. If your question, which has to be relevant to both me and Marc, by the way, is good enough, you win some prizes. Number 1, you're going to win Nate's poster for this evening's show, and it's signed by me and Marc and Nate and whatnot. And if you don't win one of these, you can find Nate and buy one off of him later on. You can also win, you will also win a pair of 4DX tickets from Deacon and our good friends at 4DX, the folks who are putting together our 2DX screening and stuff like that. This is for the 4DX theater that's in LA Live. And if you haven't seen a movie in 4DX, fuck you. That's the commercial. So we thank them for these tickets. We thank them for our Spider-Man 2DX screening that's coming up and stuff like that. So there it is. JC's picked our first person. What's your name, young sir?
My name is Greg.
Hey,
What is
Greg.
Greg.
Greg?
Yes.
Everyone give it up for Greg, man.
Hi, Greg.
So before I start, I just want to say I love you guys. You guys are my Father's Day gift.
Oh, Father's
Wow.
Day gift from who to
My
who?
wife for Father's Day bought me tickets to see the show, and she said I'm not going. Because she looked you guys up and went, yeah, I'm not interested.
I get the same thing from my fucking wife as well.
So she goes, you go, have fun with your friend, go. All right, so you guys are my Father's Day gift, so I'm very happy to be here.
Something tells me that we may be being cucked, I think. Like, I honestly feel like she's like, go be with Marc. Go talk about Superman. It'll be fine.
She's very happy without me bothering her for a couple hours, so she's like so.
You think your wife is happy just not having you bother her. What I'm saying is I think my wife is fucking cheating on me while I do this show. She's never once come to one of these fucking shows. Once. She came once.
She came once.
Yeah.
And then she left
Anyway,
early.
back to you.
My main question is, now that Disney has purchased Fox.
Into the mic. Get it right close.
Oh, sorry. Now that Disney's purchased Fox, and I'm sure everybody's asked about X-Men and stuff like that, but how would you bring...
Closer.
Sorry. What's your pitch of bringing in Fantastic Four into the MCU? If we were all lucky and they asked you two guys to go into the pitch room and say, how would you bring in Fantastic Four into MCU? What would be your pitch?
Fucking good. I like this. You go first because you're way more inventive than me.
Wait a minute. Okay.
Unless you guys are already working on that. And can't
Yeah.
say-
No. Oh, no. Believe me, if I was, I'd be dropping hints like I'd be all for that.
I'm stretching.
That would not leave me grim
That is the
at
thing.
all. Yeah, no, it's they're believe me, we're not that good.
I think I would do a period thing. I think I would do like the right stuff. I think you do it like 60s, and like.
But wait, why didn't we all hear about him like before? You got to bring him into the current Marvel continuity.
I mean, we did.
What?
I
Fair
mean,
enough that we
Captain
never heard
Marvel
about
we never
Hank
heard
Pym,
about
but
either.
how do you not hear about fucking a man that stretches, a lady that's invisible?
If you do it like First Avenger, if you do it like most of the movies in the 60s, they go off to fucking space, and then they don't come back until 2021.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
That's good.
Just so you can get that fucking like the John Glenn, the awesomeness of the right stuff, and like no, we're sending 4 men into space, 3 men and a lady into space.
And you can also get the escape from the Planet of the Apes kind of like, who are these strange
Right.
visitors who've arrived in our time? And
Like,
it's
what did
that's
we
the
miss?
missing ship.
Yeah, it's like did the world miss them, and what did they miss by being gone from the world and like coming back and having to integrate into society as just fucking people who've been missing for 40 years, and who are super fucking weird now that they're back. I think that there's a ton of like that's a lot of character you get to play with, in and amongst all of the fucking insane awesomeness that you'll get out of Fantastic Four. And maybe Doom has been here the whole time. Like maybe Doom has become like Elon Musk in their absence. And but older. Like you can fucking you could cast Keanu Reeves as like Victor Von Doom.
I think I said that last week. I was
Yeah,
like, oh, Keanu.
not bad.
The internet seems to feel he needs to play Mark Spector Moon Knight, which I also agree with as well. Could you imagine if he was playing Moon Knight? But
thought you could cast Keanu as a Silver Surfer. You can get some Point Break references.
Well done, man. Holy shit.
But yeah, that's yeah. So that's my take. I go 60s.
That's so brilliant. I was going to be like, multiverse? I like yours so much more. I cannot top it. I don't even have an original idea to get close. Let's see. How'd they set us up in Endgame and shit? Was there a setup there? Because that's what I would look for, the way to fit it into what's already there. But you found a way more clever thing to do.
Unless the end of Far From Home is Peter Parker gets a job at the Baxter Building.
I'm clutching your heart. It's like, oh my God. Well, Well, I really don't have a better pitch than his. His was fucking absolutely amazing. But here's my question: do you think they're even close to referencing Fantastic Four yet? We know they've said they're not even close to touching
I heard
X-Men.
rumor 2022.
Would be when they did the movie?
Yeah, 2022 is they're looking at some casting. Liam Hemsworth is rumored for Human Torch.
What the? You're fired. You're hired. That's the fucking news.
Thanks,
John
Greg.
Krasinski and Emily.
Wait. Go slower. Fuck, man.
Sorry,
You're going too fast. I'm already about to come. Go slow. First,
So,
it was Liam Hemsworth.
Liam
is rumored
Hemsworth
to
has
be.
been, and this is all internet rumors, so grain of salt.
You know
but-
what? The internet rumors are as good as fact, as
Right.
far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Make me happy.
So Liam Hemsworth has been talked about as Human Torch.
Okay.
As one possible, there's rumor that he's been talked to.
Okay.
Rumor, I guess, The Rock posted stuff on Twitter that he had a meeting with Kevin Feige. So rumor is he might be the voice of the thing, because if the thing's all CGI. Once again, grain of salt. And
It is a bit of typecasting, but
Yeah.
whatever. Starring The Rock as the guy
and-
made of orange rock.
And also, grain of salt, possible another reference was John Krasinski and Emily Blunt as Reed Richards and Sue Storm.
That's fucking adorable, man.
Because
they're married in real life.
And both were slated to be in the MCU. John Krasinski as Captain America. He even wore the suit in an audition.
What?
And Emily,
Wait, what? You're fired again.
That's
John
all right.
Krasinski was
I spend a lot
almost-
of time on the internet, so.
I'm gonna go fuck his wife now.
I'm gonna show her that part on YouTube now.
Wait, Krasinski was considered for
even
Captain...
he wore the Captain America suit. He had an audition, and Emily Blunt was the original Black Widow, but she had scheduling conflicts.
Wait, what?
Yes,
Who said?
many interviews. So I read a lot of internet.
That is fucking
I am a
crazy.
teacher, and I'm on summer break, so I read a lot.
Wait, so let's do the math. This must have been after the Devil
yeah,
Wears
she
Prada.
was Scarlett Johansson was technically the second choice. It was Emily Blunt was the first one,
but off of the Devil
Iron Man
Wears
2.
Prada?
Iron Man 2, they originally wanted Emily Blunt, but she had
But
scheduled
off of the Devil Wears Prada, like what was Emily Blunt coming off of that they were like she could be?
I think the Gulliver movie, where she was like the little, what was that? Somebody knows. What was it? There you go.
She hadn't done
Gulliver's
Gulliver
Travels
yet.
movie, like something. She had another.
Essentially, it was
conflict.
Devil Wears Prada.
But
that
she
fucking
was Black Widow, and Scarlett Johansson was second choice. So these are two people.
You say it twice, and somewhere Scarlett Johansson's like, "I heard you the first time, motherfucker."
But these are two people that Marvel has wanted.
They were almost there.
but
Dear
they couldn't.
Kevin Feige, kill Greg.
I've read a lot of interviews. But that's one of the rumors was having those guys in there as well.
Let me tell you something. If your question was good enough, got a great answer out of him, the dish that you just gave us, which apparently others knew, but I didn't, and I'm going to treat like nobody's known until tonight. I guarantee you, I fucking read the internet after the show. They pull the weirdest things to be like, this is news. Someone's going to fucking make that news. Someone's going to be like, did you know that Krasinski and Emily Blunt were almost these two characters? So you might
according to Greg on the latest FatMan Beyond episode.
Hey, you're on fire tonight. Oh my God. There was just a little bit of a challenge. You're like, oh no, motherfucker. Fire, fire, fire. It was adorable. That was awesome. Great question. Great stuff. Give it up for Greg. He won.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Pleasure.
By the way, real quick, I'm an avid fan. Last week, you guys were coming up with dead actors who could play MCU characters that haven't been cast yet. My buddy at a bar before he came to the show came with a perfect one.
Go.
Robert Shaw, Quentin from Jaws.
Yes.
As Kraven, the hunter.
Oh my God. You're fired again.
That's my buddy right there who came up with it.
That's great, man. That is fucking dope. Shaw as Craven. Oh, fuck. Well done.
Yeah, big game hunter, has to hunt. Yeah, yeah. So I just want to throw that one out there. There you
Fucking
go.
excellent PS.
Good job.
Give it up for him, man. Greg.
Can you get him to say, I mean, he's not alive, but could you get him to, we're going to need a bigger boat?
Who?
If
that
he
movie?
did an MCU, just like as a throwaway
You would
line?
have to tag up on that line.
Thanks, Greg.
Hey, what's your name?
I'm Katie.
What is it?
Katie.
Katie. Everyone give it up for Katie, man.
Oh, so nervous.
What do you got for us, Katie?
Okay, so my question is more focused on the Disney Plus shows that are going to be coming out, specifically the Loki one.
Yeah.
I don't know if this might be very controversial, but I feel kind of fatigued after all the heel turns that Loki has done in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So what I was wondering is, and it's kind of a question and like sub-part B question, what kind of stories do you feel like would be interesting to get people who are maybe a little fatigued back on the Loki train? And like, what would be a good goal for Loki to like get onto a path for whatever arc? Because I kind of feel like when I think of a goal, I just kind of think, oh, like, why would Loki care about blah, blah, blah?
I mean, I think the interesting thing to do, and I think the show, I don't know if they announce it or if it's just what it's going to be, but Loki with the Tesseract kind of quantum leaping his way kind of through...
Like in Endgame, yeah, in that one scene.
Is that where the Loki from Endgame is going?
Like, I think it's from there.
Are you shitting me? They set up a TV show in the movie?
They could have if they wanted to. It's on the buffet table if they want to pick it up.
That would be so smart, because did anybody follow where that Loki went?
Now he just disappears.
Because it'd be 2012 Loki just coming off of first Avengers, and so like, what does he really care about? I don't know.
Is somebody smarter than us? Did somebody do an internet deep dive on this?
Greg, what do you got?
Oh my God! Greg, you're fired. You're hired, man. Everyone's bringing the funny.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
It would be interesting though if you could do 2012 Loki who encounters 2019 Loki. Like the Loki who's made the turn, the Loki who's been through it all with his brother, the post-Ragnarok Loki,
Right.
who laid his life on the line for his brother. There's totally a way in which you could, I mean, a buddy cop show, a buddy cop quantum leap with two Lokis would be kind of fucking amazing.
Okay.
You're on fire tonight, man.
I'm interested in
That's
that.
so inventive. What a great idea.
Can I get my job back?
Yeah, you're fired. You're hired. Oh my God, twice the Tom Hiddleston, man.
Yeah,
Like,
2 times the Hiddleston.
and it's a limited series, right?
Yeah.
I bet you, man. I mean, I guess I'm not. Maybe other people smarter than me have seen this already, because when you said it, it felt like you knew something. But that Loki that disappeared in Endgame could be the Loki that the whole fucking series is predicated on, and thereby this would be a sequel series to fucking one of the biggest. Well, the movie that's about to be the biggest movie of all time. It's unheralded. They've never really done that before. That's fucking dope. Do you think they knew that going in, that they were creating a backdoor TV series? Which sounds sexier than I meant it, but you know what I mean?
I think so. I mean,
So smart.
because they'd announced the TV show months before Endgame came out.
You're right. Yeah. I like the still that they put out, which I guess was created or whatever the fuck, of him in front of a marquee that had Jaws on it. Because it instantly said, this motherfucker's going to travel through time. And I'm like, oh, I'll fucking watch that. Like, if that's the Loki show, that's how they get me. If I don't quite have the Loki fatigue that some first world people do, but that made me more interested once I saw that image, because I was like, oh, that's fucking clever. Like, you can take him away from all those characters that we would be like, why isn't he hanging out with these cats if he's fucking lost in time? And you could sprinkle in Marvel Universe, which now it's coming from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so you're damn skippy. They're going to lay stuff in. I'm sure he'll run into Howard Stark. I was very encouraged by that one fucking picture. And not like I was discouraged by a Loki show. I was like, oh, I'll watch it. But more in a sense of like, I'll watch anything they make. But when I saw that image, I was like, that's fucking clever. But now if it's not your show, Like, if it's not two Tom Hiddlestons fucking fighting each other and getting along, like, I'll be really disappointed. Like, twice the Tom is, like, that's all the show. I don't have a pitch, man. Once again, fucking, he's way more creative than me. I don't know that I could be more creative than that. But that was a great question, and you answered it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Fan. I just wanted to make sure. One time I wrapped up, and Marc was like, "You didn't let me answer." That was a great answer. You win the fucking poster. Come
Thank
on
you,
and grab
Katie.
it. Well done, Katie. And for that fire Greg joke, well done.
Yes.
Fuck. Here we go. What's your name, Captain?
Hi, I'm Giovanni.
Giovanni. Everyone give it up for Giovanni.
Ah. Buongiorno, Giovanni.
What can we do you for, Captain?
So I've been listening to this show since it was long form interview, and since you started this format, I've been thinking like what I want to say, and I thought like I've got like hours of things I could say to both of you, but I'm not going to do that because I listen to the people who talk for hours. But I just want to say that every week I listen to this show that you guys do it, and every week you guys make me feel like we're friends in real life. So thank you so
Fucking
much
A,
for
man.
doing this show.
Thank you for that. That's awesome.
Rock on.
My question is taking it back to a somewhat talked about character named Batman.
Yes.
I'm curious, what to you guys are the defining characteristics of Batman? The thing that makes him your Batman, and where do you feel that was best represented on the big screen?
Oh, wow. What's best representative of Batman? For me, it's the sad little kid who just swears that this will never happen to anyone again. That's at the root of every one of those stories. When he's pounding the shit out of somebody, when he's putting the Joker away for the gazillionth time, at the root of it is this can't happen again. And it's heartbreaking. The character's so fucking like tragic because he can't stop it. Like, the city's bleeding from every place, and he's got a box of Band-Aids, but the child in him is desperate to make it right. And only a child, like, steeped in fucking grief, like, I've lost my parents, makes this ridiculous vow of, like, this will never happen again. A realist would never think that. And if you've lost your parents to violence, I'm sure you become a realist fucking quick. But what's wonderful about that story is instead of going down the way of grief, he turned it into heroism. Now, you know, we put it through a postmodern filter and we're like, he's fucking crazy. But it really was such a noble, and still is such a noble idea, this simple truth of, this is the most horrible thing that ever happened to me, and it will never happen to anyone else again. So when you see him as an adult, and I love in the comics, I wrote it into some of the stuff I wrote, interacting with kids, it's always really special because it's like, that's why he wears that fucking suit. He was robbed of a fucking childhood. He was robbed of the rest of his fucking life. And it's one thing to not want people to come to harm, but it's especially like whoever's come to harm isn't just like some victim. That's somebody's mom. That's somebody's dad. The crime is revisited upon him time and time again. That shit is so deliciously emo that fucking I fall in love with it as I talk about it. I'm like, I get goosebumps because I'm like, fuck, that's so good. That's such good writing. And it wasn't one person. That character that we all know and love has been created by a vast many amount of writers who have added these wonderful flourishes that made him what it was. Closest I think they ever got in a movie. Well, let's just do them through the years. Not the black and white shorts. Not Adam West's Batman, although I love that Batman, but you know, it was a Batman of its era, but it wasn't like
Yours.
They really, it was definitely mine. It was my first Batman, but it's not the Batman you think of as tragic. Like, if that Batman, if his parents were killed, he didn't seem to remember. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, I must stop this. It was like, Robin, let's do it because it's fun. Like, you know, which was great for its time. And when I was a kid, that's what I loved. I didn't need the pathos of that character. That came later on when I grew up and somebody said, you don't know the fucking story of Batman's parents and stuff. I think it was probably Walter Flanagan and shit. When I handed him the report that I wrote for on Batman in high school, my senior year of high school, and I told Walter, oh, I know a little bit about Batman. I wrote this report. You want to read it? And he was like, no. And I was like, I'll bring it in anyway. And so I brought it in, he read it, and he came in the next day. He's like, you don't know anything about Batman. You talk about Aunt Harriet. That's a character from the TV show. You don't have anything about his parents in here. I was like, what do you mean? What, Batman had parents? He goes, yeah, and they were fucking killed. Like, really shitty about it. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. As if he was a real person and shit. But he started bringing me in where suddenly he was like, you don't know anything about Batman. He gave me The Dark Knight Returns. That fucking changed everything. So, not Adam West Batman, although I do deeply love that, and that was my first Batman. I remember when Tim Burton's Batman came out, we were like, this shit's so dark. And now when you watch it today, it seems like Adam West's Batman. Because it's not really that dark.
Do you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
And also, it's just like, you know, our Batman in the comics, like, can kill you fucking 16 different ways, 60 different ways with just his bare hands and shit like that. Living weapon, he's trained himself into, like, there's that fantasy part of the character that's fun as well. Not only, like, are my parents killed, but everyone's gonna fucking pay for that, and he's gonna beat them up. Like, that's power fantasy, that's fun as well. But the, what was I saying right before power fantasy? God, it was good, and I'm about to lose it because I'm a stoner.
Tim Burton
Michael
being
Keaton.
Adam West.
Oh, thank you. I was about to shit on the movie a little bit. That character who's honed himself to physical perfection and shit like that is presented to us in what we considered at the time to be the best rendition of The Dark Knight as a guy who could only fight like this. But we didn't care because it was like, oh, this is so fucking close. But that didn't capture the essence of that character, or not the pathos of the character, the parts that I look for. None of them really did. Like not Michael Keaton, not Val Kilmer, not George Clooney, and not by any fault of their own. You know, they played with the aspect of like, his parents are dead, ain't it sad? But you know, it was more about like, look at the Batwing, look at the fucking Joker, fuck the pathos. So Chris Nolan's stuff. I guess, you know, in Batman Begins, there's a bit of it. Maybe that's as close as it gets. The second one, Dark Knight, they don't do his past so much. And it's more about like, I'm fighting my dark mirror. And then the third one, not really as well. Then we're into Batman v Superman, then that really doesn't capture the fucking pathos of like, my parents died. Although
but
we
Martha.
certainly know one of their names, that's for sure. But still, movie's well done, and that's not me shitting on the movie. It's well done, but to be honest, I think the cartoons have come closer to capturing the essence of what it is. Like Batman, the Mask of the Phantasm, probably a lot closer. What else has come closer?
You know what? Not to jump on your thing.
Jump on
but
it.
The commercial for the Arkham City
Yes.
video game
By our good friend,
the Tim Miller and Burr
Miller.
Studios. But it starts with like the young. It's all in Bruce Wayne's eyes. And
This is hands down one of the greatest Batman films ever made, and it's a 30-second commercial for a video game. But I'm not being facetious. When you watch this, it encapsulates the fucking journey, and it makes you weep. We blew it for so long, and then I was like, whoever made this is fucking genius. And I was like, this kid's got a big future ahead of him and shit like that. And he wrote to me, he's like, hi, my name's Tim Miller. Like, because I was talking about Deadpool at the time. And he's like, not only did I do Deadpool, but I also did that Batman video game that you guys talked about on your show and fucking loved so much. And I thank you for pointing me out as a young up-and-coming kid, but I'm 55 years old. And so, that fucking commercial, what is it? Is it for Arkham? Which Arkham game was
it's
it?
like Arkham City Origins, is it? And it's got like the voiceover, the letter from his dad, which is like...
No, that's not the one I'm talking about.
That's not the one? Because that one is
Go ahead,
also
you do
pretty
yours.
great.
I'm jumping on you. Go ahead.
Because that one is like, dear Bruce, I know as you get older, you're going to have like, childhood dalliances. You're going to want to spend your money in wrong ways. You're going to want to stay out too late at night. You're going to do damage to your body that you can't recover from.
Opposite imagery from the letter.
But it's spend too much money and you're in the fucking Batcave. Like you're going to want to be out too late at night. It's fucking Batman. Like it's all the things a father hopes his son doesn't do is exactly what his son is doing, but in fundamentally a different way than his father expected it. Right. It's operatic, in its just perfect little like crystalline piece of this is what this life is like.
That is good. The one I was referring to was, I don't know which game it is because I don't play the games. Origins. So it shows, the camera is fixed on, and I guess they would call it, what, a cut scene in a video game or something? Camera's fixed on the face of young Bruce Wayne, and clearly he's standing between his parents, but you're close on him, so you get the impression their body's there. His hands, I think if I remember correctly, are in the up position, meaning like he's being escorted. And his face is pure joy. And it's for about 2 seconds at the beginning of this commercial. And it's the most valuable piece of real estate, that 2 seconds, because it sets the tone. Because you're like, this kid's happy. And then you hear the fucking gunshot, and I'm going to cry talking about it. And you see the flash, and his face, and it's all kind of slow-mo, and his face drops. It goes from the joy, the elation, the happiness, the contented childhood, to what the fuck just happened. And they use the bang of the gun to jump ahead in his life, and they do it about 5 times or something. So the first one, he's the boy who just watched his parents get killed, and then they go bang, and they jump ahead to the boy at his parents' funeral with rain coming down and fucking umbrella and shit like that. Then bang, the boy at private school who's getting into fights and shit like that. Then bang, the young man who goes off and learns to train to become Batman. And then bam, like fucking him as the Dark Knight and fucking punching for the first time. So it shows you the entire painful fucking journey of that character to the place where you see this dude in this outfit about to punch somebody and you're going like, this makes absolute fucking sense. Like, that's what I would do, you know? Oh, it's incredibly fucking moving. Tim Miller did it, and he did a fantastic fucking job with it. That may be the closest thing to what I'm talking about, the essence of fucking Batman that I respond to. You can find it online. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's fucking breathtaking.
For me, Batman, heroism is choice, right? Like you're choosing to do a thing. Heroism doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen just, I happen to be there. You're choosing to do something that ordinary people won't choose. And the choice that Bruce Wayne makes is he forgoes any attempt at happiness for the salvation of Gotham City. And it's a choice that will never fundamentally pay out. But every time you see him, and the Nolan movies get at this, I think, the best, there's Rachel Dawes. She's the girl I'm in love with. I can never be with her. And every time he's faced with, I could save her or save the city, he will choose the city. And so watching the ongoing tragedy of this man who's earned everything he could possibly ever want, but chooses to not have it because my city needs me, and he doesn't want to fail his city. Like, it's that.
And by the way, the city took everything from him.
Totally. Like, the city has never earned that love, but he gives it every day, every night, and without blinking, without flinching at all, which is
He's not real, and I get so emotional. I'm like, God, he's such a good man.
You know, so like, and when he lets Rachel die, spoilers, that is the apotheosis of that choice, of that desire to forego any personal happiness for the mission. That to me is what, and it is a little bit the mark of slight insanity, there's a psychopathy going on with Bruce Wayne, but even through it all, that choice for him is crystal clear. And that's the heartbreaking part for me about it.
It's so funny because we can justify, like in this room, nobody questions when you go like, if that's what happened, like I could see myself doing that. Like everyone's like, yeah, right, me too. If you went out to a real bar and had this conversation, hey man, if your parents got killed, do you think you'd be Batman? It's like, my parents did get killed and I killed them. Shut the fuck up and leave me alone.
Hey, by the way, I'm Batman. Which is part of the reason why I think, many of us were a little chafed by the end of The Dark Knight Rises.
By the way, I'm Batman. That's so brilliant, man. But doctor, I am Batman.
Because Batman would never make the choice for happiness. Like the Batman that we know and love would never choose to sip cappuccino in some Italian veranda when Gotham is still fucking Gotham. It's...
Which, as a purist, I should have felt that rage. And if you go back and listen to like the podcast, I did an episode of Smodcast with Mosier years ago when Dark Knight came out, and I got real crazy emotional. I saw it like 3 times in 24 hours, so I could do the movie from memory really well and shit. But I brought up, what was the point you were just talking about?
The ending of Dark Knight Rises.
The ending of
Choosing
Dark Knight
happiness.
Rises. As a Batman purist, I should be like, come on. He would never fucking quit the city for fucking any woman, let alone Catwoman and shit like that, or anybody. He's committed to the fucking city. But as I'm telling Scott Mosier the story, I was like, and this guy, he's flying this fucking bomb out to the ocean and shit like that, and he knows he's gonna fucking die, and like I was okay with that because he earned it, man. Like fucking. But then when he showed up at the end and he was alive, like I was so happy for him because he earned that too. And so he handled that material in such a way where me as a Batman purist, but it should have been like, fuck that. Like I bought it. I'm like, he's allowed to rest, man.
Marc,
Good for him.
Are you reading the comics currently, the Tom King run?
Why would you do that?
I'm sorry. They're playing with that exact idea that you're talking about. And it's really interesting.
The comics are great.
Tom King, he's the one that
He started with the
Does he do
Rebirth.
Mr. Miracle as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is he the one that wrote the Ace the Bat Hound story?
I don't know.
Anyone remember that story? Came out of what Batman book it was?
I think he did.
Good Dog.
Yes, that was him.
One of the greatest. If you've never read this story, it's one of the greatest Batman stories ever told. It's not really about Batman, although of course it's all about Batman.
It's about Alfred,
but
right?
it's about Alfred Moore, and really it's about Ace the Bat Hound, and it's a fucking reinvention that, like, I'm gonna get fucking. I'm too emotional. As a rescue dog owner, it fucking kills you, like, at your heart, because the story Ace the Bat Hound, as we all know, is fucking Batman's dog, and sometimes wears the mask and the cape and shit like that, and he's had various incarnations throughout Batman's history. This incarnation, I hope it's Tom King who wrote it, but if not, whoever wrote it is fucking genius, but I'm pretty sure it is Tom King. The story begins with the dog is one of the Joker's hench dogs, painted up like, fucking like a hench dog and shit like that, as a wild,
as you do,
as a wild animal. And they cut to him like later on, if I remember correctly, Batman defeats Joker or whatever, but they find this pit where there's this vicious fucking dog with blood all over him and dead dogs surrounding him. And I think the line was something like, the Joker just left the mayor all to die and he's the last dog standing. So the implication is this fucking dog is crazy, broken, and should be destroyed because he killed all these other fucking dogs. And Batman, is it Batman who takes him home? Batman brings him back. And Alfred winds up slowly training him. And it's a beautiful fucking story about like PTSD, about like surviving. It's so well written. Very little dialogue. Not long. It's not like 22 pages and shit. But I wrote a story for Detective Comics 1000 about Batman that a lot of people, thank God, fucking liked him. Were like, you made up for making him piss his pants, you fucking jerk. So people like that story. I owe that story to that story. Because that was my model. I read that and I was like, if I could tell a fucking concise, wonderful Batman story that adds a little bit to the mythos and is like moving and hits you right in the right places and shit, if I could do it like that, that was my model. So I like, hopefully he's the right guy, we're blowing the right guy. Or somewhere Tom King's like, I didn't write that shit.
It's definitely in the last, because I remember it ends with Christmas Day, and Batman gives Alfred a gift, and he goes, oh, Alfred, don't worry about it, you didn't get me anything. And that's what I took away from it. He's like, Master Bruce, I didn't get you anything.
That's
but
the
he
PS of the
raised
story,
his best
is like
friend.
he raised that dog, like Alfred gave him a best, yes. Oh my God, it's a wonderful fucking story. Did you answer?
I did answer.
Did I answer?
You did.
That was a great question. You want a poster and you want tickets. Give it up for him, ladies and gentlemen. How nice, like, it felt like being in a marriage, and I don't want this to reflect on my wife because she's way cool, but it felt like being in a marriage and like doing something you haven't done in a long time. Like we went to the roller rink, like something we did like when we were kids, to talk about Batman on the show called FatMan Beyond and shit like that. it was nice to kind of
Yeah.
roll around in the warm embrace of the character again. Thank you for that. That was really, really sweet. We got no more show left to do, ladies and gentlemen. Did you have a good time this evening? I can't thank you enough for being here. Don't forget, Nate has his prints. If you want to buy a print from Nate, he also has these fine FatMan Beyond pins and whatnot. If you want to get one from him, find him after the show. But that show, which is this show, doesn't exist without the guy standing to my left. Give it up for the great Marc Barnard. And that is FatMan Beyond for this week. I'm Kevin Smith.
I'm Marc Barnard.
Tune in next time, same fat time, same fat channel, smodcast.com or
YouTube.com/Kevin Smith.
for the good of all Cree. Good night, everybody.
Good night.